You take me down, spin me around. You got me running all the lights. Don't make a sound, talk to me now. Let me inside your mind. Don't know what you're thinking, sugar. Ooh, but I just got that feeling, sugar. Ooh, and I can hear the sirens burning, red lights turning. I can't turn back now. So hold on tight.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's already been a great portion of the evening to see the Hall of Fame members arrive early and have their photos taken with their families and other important members of their entourage. As we start this event, the new tradition that we've begun in recent years is to have the honored members of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame please come to the front of the stage and assemble in this order right here. So all Hall of Fame members in attendance that have already been inducted, would you please come to the front of the stage and gather? It's also my pleasure at this time to invite those members of the induction classes of 2022 and 2023 to also come to the front, but to be on the stage. And that, of course, includes those personalities who are being inducted this evening, or their acceptors, and those who are accepting for horses. So we already have Ian Fleming here, Ben Wallace, Paul McDonnell, Jim Bullock, and so we would ask the rest of the Hall of Fame members in attendance and the class of 2022-23 to come to the front. No. No. Oh yes, 23. Yeah. You're there. You're here.
You're very hard to understand.
Okay. So we'll tell them. Okay, you line up here. Entourage group, please come forward.
Touch the ground and it feels like I can see the sands on the horizon every time you are not around. I'm slowly drifting.
So to our inducted members of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, welcome. Let me do some introductions. As I mention your name, would you please identify yourself, because we do have some novices in the crowd and people that would really like to know who you are. From Standardbred Racing, Jim Bullock. Jim. Next to Jim is Ian Fleming. Carl Jameson. Paul McDonnell. Ben Wallace. Not sure if Randy Waples made it, but he is going to be here eventually. Ron Waples, the real icon of Standardbred Racing, is with us. Now from Thoroughbred Racing, Robert Tiller. Visiting us from Kentucky tonight, a very busy man, John G. Secura. We're waiting on Vicky Pappas, but we'll mention her anyway. Dan Louisel. Dan Louisel. Josie Carroll, trainer Josie Carroll. Another great icon of the hall, trainer Roger Atfield. And Larry Attard. Now we're going to shift our attention from the front row to those who are on stage. Representing Pure Ivory, Steve Stewart, current owner who has traveled from Kentucky with his wife Cindy to be with us. Steve, welcome. Representing Court Vision, Judy Pryor, her current owner. Now, Judy has traveled with friends all the way from Nebraska to be with us this evening. Welcome, Judy. Representing Erwin Drieger, Leslie Soever. Representing Shadow Play, Dr. Ian Moore, owner and trainer. Representing the late Dr. Lloyd McKibben, Terry McKibben. Thank you, Terry. Representing Charles Fipke, Richard Hogan, Bloodstock Advisor. Representing Formal Gold, co-breeder Kathy Griggs. Now, Kathy has traveled from Lexington to be with us with her husband, Kirk, this evening. Representing Ali-D, dual Hall of Fame trainer once again, Roger Atfield. Representing Pink Floyd, a big group, and why not? Frank DiGiulio and the Entourage group, Ed Longo, John Peary, John Locato, and Victor Melly, and trainer Robert Tiller. Representing Bulldog Hanover, co-owner Brad Grant, and Jack Darling, trainer and co-owner. And those with us in person this evening, Gilles Gendron. The great voice, Frank Salive. Once again, Jack Darling. Christopher. R. Glenn Secura. And Eurico Rosa da Silva. Now we will stop for the picture taking. Clive, what do you need to do? Okay.
All right, can I get you to come right up here?
It's the
Okay, as everybody gets their glass, the toast will be to Canada's best. So ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise if you are able? And on the count of 3, charge your glasses in a toast to the classes of 2022, 2023. 1, 2, 3, to Canada's best. Well, welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. Great to see all the Hall of Famers together. Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. With this year's induction of 8 special individuals and 8 outstanding horses, the Hall of Fame will grow significantly in numbers and, importantly, in class. What an outstanding group of inductees we've just had here on the stage. Every one of them uniquely special. Also, who didn't notice the synergy of the night? It's palpable for sure. The combination of a couple of recently retired superstars, the induction of one of the sires of those superstars, and also the induction of a couple of outstanding connections of those 2 superstars. If it wasn't already an imaginable night, this is going to be fantastic going forward. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is now in the final stages of catching up and doubling up after the debilitating delays with COVID. Tonight provides the perfect opportunity in the proper place to fully recognize inductees in front of families, friends, admirers, and industry representatives, some of whom you've already heard have traveled an extended distance to be with us this evening. I also would like to recognize the work on both breeds from the nomination and the election committees. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please follow along on the monitors as the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame's special land acknowledgement statement is pronounced. We all live on the land of Indigenous peoples. Since the introduction of horses to these lands, our cultures have shared an admiration and respect for horses and their relationship with humanity in all respects. We celebrate their role in sport and in competition. Thank you. Okay, a few more calisthenics for you, because here comes the Hall of Fame's rendition of "O Canada." Would you please stand as you are able and enjoy. Please be seated. This is our heritage. This is our country that we are so proud of, and we are so proud to invite our guests from other parts of the world. We now come to a solemn moment in the program as we remember with thankful hearts those honored members, both people we have loved and respected, and horses that we have admired who have passed since the last time we gathered in this place. During this in memoriam pictorial, we invite you to observe a moment of silence as we honor Dr. John Finley, driver trainer, class of 1997, Merv Peters, thoroughbred builder from the class of 1993, Good Times, standardbred male from the class of 2004, Angus Hall, standardbred male from the class of 2010, and most regrettably, Erwin Drieger, jockey from the class of 2023. Thank you. It is now time to hear from the President of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, and that is Mr. Darrell Kaplan.
Longtime PGA golfer Peter Jacobsen once said, "The Golf Hall of Fame is full of players with unusual-looking swings. Some of the prettiest swings you've ever seen in your life are made on the far end of the public driving range by guys who couldn't break an egg with a baseball bat." What Jacobsen understood, and as we get older, many of us understand, is that greatness is rarely achieved by doing what everybody else is doing. Whether it's golf, science, or caring for a high-performance racehorse, the best of the best often see things a little differently, do things that haven't been done, and break barriers that we never knew needed to be broken. The walls of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame are adorned with riders and drivers who always manage to be one step ahead of their competition, despite the most challenging circumstances. Owners and trainers who found the yearling that wasn't quite perfect, the horse that everyone else passed up on and nurtured her into being a world-class superstar. Breeders who found magic year after year against all odds, finding the hidden mare, choosing the unappreciated stallion, raising the foal who may not have looked perfect on day one. Builders and communicators who pushed past the attitude of, "It's always been that way," to innovate, to change, and to improve the game for future generations. And of course, the horses. The horses on the walls of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame haven't always looked the biggest or the best put together. They haven't always had the easiest path to greatness. But every single one of them amazed us with their will to do something truly special. Today, we are here to celebrate exactly that. Those in our industry who accomplished something special over the duration of their careers, something that only the very best of the best have been able to do. And while not all of our Hall of Famers, to use our golf analogy, had the prettiest swings from the first day they came to the racetrack, they all figured out how to do incredible things. And they all knew how to break an egg with a baseball bat. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame has always relied on the ongoing and unwavering support of the industry, and never has this been more important than in the last several years. HPPA, COSA, Standardbred Canada, and CTHS National have been the backbone of our funding. Our partnership with Woodbine Entertainment Group, where the Hall of Fame is located, is critical to our success. We sincerely thank all of our generous contributors and sponsors who step up year after year. Thank you to every volunteer and committee member who keeps the Hall of Fame going. Thank you to Canada's breeders who have stepped up to support the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame Stallion Auction each year. Thank you to our board of directors and, of course, Linda Rainey, our managing director who leads our organization. Her and a very small team are responsible for all initiatives and events, including this one, and we're most fortunate. I'd also like to take a moment to say thank you to the numerous caretakers, grooms, hot walkers, exercise riders, and staff members who may not always find their names on the walls of the Hall of Fame. But as we all know, their contributions are absolutely critical to the success of the inductees here tonight and those already in the hall. And to the racing fans, the casual and the loyal, the bettors and customers who enjoy racing day after day, night after night, in person or online, whether it's attending the King's Plate or Gold Cup and Saucer, or taking in the races in Millerville, Alberta, Woodstock, New Brunswick, Trois-Rivières, Quebec, or anywhere else in this great country, we are grateful. Tonight, as we have done for decades, we are thrilled to honor our esteemed Hall of Fame members and the classes of 2022 and 2023. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, we extend our sincerest congratulations to our newest inductees and their families. Each of them have reached a pinnacle that very few will ever achieve, have shown us what is possible, and reminded us about all that is beautiful about horse racing. Thank you again, congratulations, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much, Darrell, and thanks to Darrell for his leadership as president of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame. As fortune would have it, we do have 3 past presidents of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame in attendance this evening, and I'd like to take a moment to have them recognized. So as I call your name, would you stand and be recognized, please? R. Glenn Secura. Ted Smith. And John Stapleton. Thank you all for your contributions to the Hall. John Stapleton currently serves as our Vice President, and as you know, R. Glenn Secura is one of our inductees this evening. Darrell had some kind words about our sponsors, and we certainly thank them for their generous and continued support. And as you heard Darrell say, many of them have been with us for an extended time, for which we are truly appreciative. And they are, as you can see on your screen there, our gold event sponsor for this evening, Ontario Racing. The Ontario Lottery and Gaming Corporation, our presenting sponsor. Woodbine Entertainment Broadcast Department for the video production. The Jockeys Benefit Association of Canada, our reception sponsor. Ontario Harness Tracks, the inductee toast sponsor. COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, our wine sponsor. Master Feeds, our photography sponsor. The Raceway at Western Fair, our Bulldog Brew sponsor. To each of these organizations and our true friends behind them, we say a collective thank you. Just a word about our silent auction this evening. This will be a moving target for us, but don't worry if you're involved in trying to get your final bid in. When the time comes to announce the end is nearing, and it could be between 8 and 8:30, we will alert you to that fact to give you lots of time to finalize your bids, and we will have a countdown clock to the end of the silent auction so no one is caught unawares. So that'll be coming up as we are having our inductions this evening. And speaking of the induction portion of the evening, here we are, thank goodness. And I want to introduce you to our co-hosts for this evening, and they will guide us through this highlight part of the evening, this litany of inductions. Would you please give a warm Hall of Fame welcome to Kelly Spencer and Robert Geller. And just some final instructions before we have our co-hosts come up to begin the induction portion. Those personalities being inducted this evening, or their acceptors, they are the ones invited to come to the podium with their remarks after the presentation photo. The acceptors of all the horses being honored this evening will have the pleasure of a feature interview with Kelly or Robert on the left side of the stage there. And we want to learn all about your equines and what makes them tick, so hopefully that featured interview will bring that information out. Once again, your co-hosts for this evening induction portion, Kelly Spencer and Robert Geller.
Good evening. Just going to do a little bit of this. Here we go. All right. Thank you very much to the Hall of Fame for this distinct pleasure to be here this evening. Our first inductee of the evening is the sensational trotting mare, Pure Ivory. A champion millionaire on the track, and as a broodmare, the producer of Double Millionaire and Hambletonian winner, Forbidden Trade. Tonight, she joins the elite company of horses and people, such as her driver and racing co-owner, Steve Condren, for whom the Hall of Fame commemorates a rare and exceptional contribution to the sport. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is very proud to induct Pure Ivory.
Trotting mare Pure Ivory, bred by Diane Ingham and the late Harry Rutherford of Mount Pleasant, Ontario, was an exceptional racehorse and an accomplished broodmare. During a 3-year racing career, she won 22 races, banked more than $1.4 million in purses, and took a lifetime mark of 153-1. She was the dam of 2019 Hambletonian champion Forbidden Trade, a Divisional O'Brien Award winner at 2 and 3, and Canada's Horse of the Year in 2019 with more than $2.3 million in purse earnings. Trained by Brad Maxwell, the daughter of Striking Sabra was owned by Jerry Van Boekel, Christina Maxwell, her regular drivers Steve Condren, and Harry Rutherford, all Ontario. She is currently owned by Steve Stewart of Paris, Kentucky. Pure Ivory was an overnight sensation, reeling off victories in 6 of her first 7 stakes races in her rookie year, including an impressive triumph in the Champlain Stakes. She was a standout in the Ontario Sires Stakes, winning 5 of 7 events, including the season-ending Super Final Championship.
But it's going to be Pure Ivory to kick off Super Final night with a devastating performance for Condren and Maxwell. She won it by 5.
As a result of a rookie season, boasting 10 stakes wins and $465,000 in earnings, she received an O'Brien Award as Canada's 2-year-old Trotting Filly of the Year in 2005. Pure Ivory continued her dominance as a sophomore, winning 12 races and earning more than $914,000 track record miles in an Ontario Sire Stakes event at Western Fair and Trillium Stakes at Georgian Downs, a track and Canadian record in the Simcoe Stakes, a Canadian Breeders' Championship, and a second Super Final Championship were some of the major victories added to her credentials.
Pure Ivory almost home. Portia Hall closing up the inside. Pure Ivory wins the Super Final second.
She was honored with a second O'Brien Bronze as the voters' unanimous choice as Canada's 3-year-old Trotting Filly of the Year in 2006. She was retired to the breeding shed at the end of her 4-year-old season, which included solid efforts in several stakes. In 2014, Woodbine Entertainment introduced the Pure Ivory series for 2-year-old trotting fillies in honor of the outstanding mare.
Who wins in the final of the Pure Ivory? She won.
Accepting is Steve Stewart, the current owner of Pure Ivory, and making the presentation is Jerry Van Boekel, Pure Ivory's co-owner during her racing career. All right, I'm joined here by Steve and Cindy, and we have some questions for you. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, so first of all, your acquisition of Pure Ivory, as detailed in the Trot magazine recently, is a very twisting and fascinating tale, kind of like a Netflix original screenplay, I think. So give me like the Coles Notes version. It involves a Finnish billionaire which vanishes into thin air. Can you sort of pick up the story there and give us the Coles Notes version of how you came to acquire Pure Ivory and how you finally, hold on, because this is the best part, and how you finally decided to breed her to Cadabra?
Well, originally the previous owners had sold her to this man in Finland. And I got involved because a friend of mine called me up one day and said that there's a mare in here that has come to Finland, but she's too good to be bred in Finland. We're going to send her back to the United States. So we did, and this gentleman bred her to basically the top stallions in our business, Muscle Hill and Muscles Yankee. And all three of them were no good, absolutely no good at all. And so it was a little disheartening, but this man forgot to pay his bill to Hunterton Farm, our farm. So over 3 years, it finally got to the point where nobody could find him, and my friend was unable to find him, and he had basically disappeared. So we had a sheriff's sale and ended up with the mare on a board bill, which was very helpful for us. And my friend kept telling me, he's a bloodstock agent, he kept telling me to breed her to Cadabra, who was one of the leading stallions here in Canada. So I think that the moral of the story of Pure Ivory is she's truly Canadian. She lives in Kentucky now, but she's truly Canadian. And once she finally got bred to Cadabra, then she produces the Hamiltonian winner, which is, as everyone knows, our Kentucky Derby in our business. And she continues to do well for Cindy and I, that's for sure.
Well,
so this award is a real honor, and I just want to thank the Hall of Fame for this wonderful honor, and she's very well deserving.
That's great. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A very good evening, and again, a pleasure to be here, an honor to be here. Thank you to all of those who put this night together, and it really is a marvelous cast of recipients this year. Our next inductee positively impacted Canadian racing with a drama-filled victory following a layoff in the 2010 Woodbine Mile, but also as a successful sire here in the initial stages of his breeding career. He was a 5-time winner at the highest level, including a stunning long shot victory in the 2011 Breeders' Mile Turf. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Court Vision.
2005 born Court Vision, the son of champion sprinter Gulch and mare Weekend Storm, a full sister to Preakness Stakes winner Summer Squall, and half-sister to AP Indy, was a multiple graded stakes winner on both dirt and turf at 2 and a grade 1 winner at 3, 4, and 5. A $180,000 Keeneland yearling purchase and later a $350,000 two-year-old in training buy, Court Vision showed his potential early, winning 3 of his first 4 races at 2 for Windstar Farm and trainer Bill Mott, including the Grade 2 Renzen Stakes and Grade 3 Iroquois Stakes. With Mike Ivarone's IEH Stables added as an ownership partner, there were 2 third-place finishes in Kentucky Derby prep races. In the 2008 Derby, he was unplaced behind his speedy stablemate, Big Brown. Late in his sophomore year, the colt blossomed when raced on grass, with a victory in the Grade 2 Jamaica Stakes at Aqueduct and his first Grade 1 win in the $500,000 Hollywood Derby. With trainer Rick Dutrow Jr., there were victories in the Grade 1 Shadwell Mile at Keeneland and the 2010 Woodbine Mile.
Court Vision and Robbie Alvarado. Court Vision, it's his day today. Court Vision and Robbie Alvarado win the Woodbine Mile of the Usual.
In 2011, Court Vision concluded his race career for owners Spendthrift and trainer Dale Romans by winning the Breeders' Cup Mile at Churchill Downs in one of the biggest upsets in Cup history.
Court Vision gonna outrun him. Churalure on the outside. Oh, they hit it together. Too close to Court Vision.
He's actually going to Canada, where all the good stallions are on their way to.
In 2012, Court Vision began his sire career at Michael Burns, Ontario-based Park Stud, and he was Canada's leading freshman sire based on earnings and stakes horses. Beginning in 2016, his stallion career continued in Kentucky before moving to Louisiana and now stands at Pryor Ranch in Nebraska. Among his stakes horses are 2019 Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner and Eclipse champion Storm the Court with earnings of $1.365 million, Grade 3 winner Mr. Haverkamp, and a king in his court. In a career consisting of 31 starts, Court Vision accumulated 9 wins, 4 seconds, and 4 thirds, with total earnings in excess of $3.7 million.
Making the presentation is Manager Racing Operations and Concierge Services at Woodbine Entertainment, Martha Wakely, and accepting is the current owner of Court Vision from Pryor Ranch, Judy Pryor. Sure. Judy, so delightful to get to meet you here. I wanted to just say thank you so much for coming from Omaha, Nebraska to be with us tonight for this special moment. And I want to just say I followed Court Vision in the Kentucky Derby. It was actually my pick. I was so delighted to see this horse grow into himself, especially when he became a turf specialist. What do you recall about the spectacular wins that we just saw in the Woodbine Mile here and also in that incredible Breeders' Cup Mile when he was such a huge long shot?
Well, I recall that he just won and he just put his whole heart into it like he does every day. He's a wonderful horse. He loves company. He likes to plan what he's doing, and then he kind of like scopes out the competition, and then he knows right when to have that burst of speed, and he only does what he has to do.
You know, you were telling me a little bit that as a young girl, you dreamed very, very much about having a special horse. And along comes Court Vision in what looks to be an unlikely journey. How did it all come about?
Well, I've been doing horses my entire life since I was like 3 years old, and I started buying and selling horses at 9. And I competitions quite a lot in 4-H and open shows. And then we started raising world champion quarter horses. But I walked the shed rows of all these racetracks to get thoroughbred mares for our quarter horse stud. And then we got a thoroughbred stallion and decided to do thoroughbreds. And there is nothing like it. This is wonderful. You guys go all out, and it's spectacular up here.
Well, we're delighted you made it. And Aksarben, you used to know very well, and you really, after that industry changed, you were telling me earlier that it meant so much to have this horse in Nebraska.
Oh my gosh, yes. after we lost Exarban, the purses were very, very small, and the people that stayed in the business are diehards. And I just happened to sell some land, and I thought, I'm going to put that money in horses. And I wanted the best. And at that time, Court Vision was the best one I could find. And I'm so proud of this, with a 5-time Grade 1 winner, retiring sound after 31 races. That's kind of unheard of these days. And his mare line is impeccable. He's got pages and pages. What more could a little girl want?
Well, thank you so much for being here. Congratulations. And tomorrow, enjoy the barn tour that you're going to have and see some of the progeny of Court Vision. Thank you.
Oh, my God, that was horrible. But thank you.
Our next inductee from Russell, Manitoba. He made his substantial mark in Canadian racing, both in and out of the saddle. His record-setting season in 1981 at Assiniboia Downs earned him a Sovereign Award as Canada's outstanding jockey. Further success followed in Ontario as the rider of many champions, including Classy and Smart, and her Canadian Triple Crown winning daughter, Dance Smartly. He transitioned into his next meaningful roles as Secretary Manager for the Jockeys Benefit Association, addressing safety issues for other riders, and then to Director of Racing Surfaces at Woodbine, addressing safety issues for horses. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Erwin Drieger.
Drieger sets the Garto down for the drive, and she takes over.
A native of Russell, Manitoba, Erwin Drieger launched his riding career in 1967 as an exercise rider at age 11. To hone his skills, he initially rode at fairs in Western Canada, then advanced to bush tracks, and eventually on to Winnipeg's Assiniboia Downs in 1973, where he plied his trade until 1982. While riding at Assiniboia in 1979, Erwin set a track record of 161 wins before surpassing his own accomplishment in 1980 with 180 victories. The following year, Drieger made 214 trips to the winner's circle, a record that still stands.
For winning jockey Erwin Drieger, that's another $49,000.
Drieger's riding career continued at major tracks across Canada for the next 17 years, winning over 1,600 races for purse earnings of $14.6 million. Among the horses ridden by the 1998 recipient of the Avelino Gomez Memorial Award were Sovereign Award winners Liz's Pride, Phoenix Factor, Classy and Smart, In My Cap, Grey Classic, and Imperial Choice. When Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame honoree Classy and Smart's daughter, Dance Smartly, was ready to start her race career, Drieger was provided the opportunity to ride the future Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame honored member for her first start, a 5-furlong maiden race, which the pair won by a comfortable 3.5 length margin. In 1990, Drieger retired from competition and became the Secretary Manager of the Jockeys Benefit Association of Canada, serving his first term until 2006. Under his direction, Canadian jockeys became the first in North America to wear safety vests. Drieger was also instrumental in helping to install safety rails at Woodbine Racetrack. And from 2006 until 2018, Drieger held the position of Director of Thoroughbred Racing Surfaces, also at Woodbine. In 2019, he returned to the Jockeys Benefit Association of Canada to again assume the role of Secretary Manager, a position he held until his retirement in 2021.
Accepting tonight for the late Erwin Drieger is Leslie Soever And to make the presentation to Leslie is Erwin's longtime agent from Winnipeg in tonight to join us, Lorne Spearman, and former jockey and current steward and dear friend, Gunnar Lindberg. The microphone across to Leslie and also after that to Gunnar, who have some words that they would like to share with you tonight.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. It is my privilege to accept this award on behalf of Erwin, and he was so excited to learn this news back on April 26th when we got the phone call from Jim Bannon. And knowing he was to receive this award, it did bring him great joy at a time when there really was little joy to be had. Excuse me, but within 2 days, and very true to Erwin's nature, he had his speech written for tonight. So Erwin's words follow. It is such an honor for me to be inducted into the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame. Thank you to those who nominated me. I would also like to acknowledge Emil Ramsamy and Gary Stahlbaum, who were also nominated. I have to say, I had a great racing career with lots of fond memories. You've heard these names, but I was fortunate to ride some amazing horses. Dance Smartly, Imperial Choice, Classy and Smart, Silver Deputy, to name a few, and be associated with their owners and trainers and those who cared for them. A lot of this history has been documented by Bob Gates, who chronicled my early years at Assiniboia Downs, and I thank Bob. It's very exciting for me to be in this Canadian institution with all the great riders before me. As you know, I'm passionate about horse racing in Canada and about the horse racing industry. Having ridden at tracks in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario, this really brings it home for me. And lastly, I extend a special thank you to my career-long agent, Lorne Spearman. He was with me from my start in Manitoba in the early 1970s until I retired in 1990. So thank you, Lorne. And thank you to the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame for this wonderful honor, and thank you all.
We started out as competitors at the track, and we soon became fast friends. That was some 40 years ago. Over the years, we had many adventures, and we constantly challenged each other. He was a straight shooter and would tell you what he thought. You always know where you stood with Erwin. But he was also a gentleman and a caring man. Approximately 4 years ago, Erwin confided in me that he had stage 4 cancer. He asked that I not tell anyone, and I respected his wishes. About a year later, he told me he was retiring, and he could no longer keep his condition secret. I could tell the treatments were taking their toll on him. Not once did I hear him complain. In fact, just the opposite. Erwin never let this horrible disease stop him from living his life. The adventures continued. Snowmobiling, boating, golfing, RVing. That was Erwin. He was a proud man, and he had a zest for life. He would continue this way until his final days. Heck, he was out mowing his lawn 2 days before the end. And then I think, why him? Why not me? So I strive to live every moment of every day to the fullest, because you never know when your time will come. I am honored today that Leslie, his wife, has asked me to be part of this ceremony, along with Lauren Spearman, to accept this award, to present this award on Erwin's behalf. I feel privileged to have been part of his life for so many years and will cherish the memories. He was my friend and I will miss him very much. Rest in peace, Erwin. This one's for you. Thank you.
In 1975, I met exceptional man, Erwin Trigger, and we had a good team and a lot of fun, and I thought I would do this good, but I didn't. He taught me a lot of things. One thing he did teach me is true happiness. It doesn't come from having something, but it comes from being part of something. And we had a great run. I know he enjoyed working with me as much as I enjoyed working with him. And we made a lot of wins, and we made a lot of friends, and I'll never forget him. Thank you, Erwin. And thank you, everybody, for coming and tolerating me. Thank you.
Our next inductee is well-versed in reaching exclusive heights. He is one of few North American drivers to reach 7,000 wins, a feat which illustrates his prolific success for nearly 2 decades in Quebec. He piloted Hall of Famers Grade Singing and Garlic Lobel and joins them this evening in his well-deserved place among the best of the best. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Le Chef, Gilles Gendron.
Gilles Gendron of Saint-Eustache, Quebec, started his illustrious driving career in the spring of 1967 at the age of 22. He competed in more than 37,000 races, scored over 7,000 victories, and drove horses to earnings surpassing $36.9 million. Nicknamed Le Chef, the Chief, Gendron dominated the driving colony at Blue Bonnets Raceway during the 1970s and 1980s. He topped the drivers' standings 10 times between 1972 and 1984 and won 11 consecutive driving championships. Windsor Raceway hosted the Challenge of Champions in 1972, where Gendron defeated many of North America's top drivers, including Hervé Fillon, Ron Fagan, and Carmine Abatiello. That same year, he set a North American record at that time when he won 232 races at Blue Bonnets. He won more than 200 races for 14 consecutive years, drove horses to earnings of more than $1 million for 17 years, and ranked in the North American top 10 7 times. In 1992, he posted his best season on record with 279 victories and more than $2 million in purse earnings. Two of many equine stars Gendron drove included Hall of Famers Grade Singing and Garland LaBelle. He was the regular driver for Grade Singing during her championship season as a 3-year-old, which included 20 wins in 25 starts and a national title as the Canadian Trotting Association's 3-year-old Trotting Filly of the Year in 1985. Gendron represented Canada in the World Driving Championship on 3 occasions. His best performance was a 3rd place finish in the 1979 championship hosted in Australia and New Zealand. In 2009, at age 64, he drove a pair of winners at Rideau Carleton Raceway to put him at 7,000 career wins, making him the first driver to reach that milestone while racing primarily in Quebec. His celebrated driving career has earned him a well-deserved induction into the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame.
Making the presentation to Gilles are his sons Oliver and Francis.
Hell yeah! You know, if you are in Hall of Fame, not because you're lucky, you got to be good. If you're good, because you drive some good horses for good trainers and good groom. That's what happened with me and everywhere else. You know, because those people with the horses, we pass our life in a paddock, farm, and a racetrack. It's lots of hours. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is Shadow Play, sire of 6 millionaires, including the modern marvel Bulldog Hanover, which will accompany him into the Hall of Fame later this evening. Shadow Play's racing accomplishments included a world record and the 2008 Little Brown Jug. Said succinctly by trainer and co-owner Dr. Ian Moore, Shadow Play would try his heart out for me. And tonight we honor that beautiful trait and all it has created for Canadian horse racing. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Shadow Play.
Shadow Play excelled on the racetrack and in the breeding shed. During a racing career that spanned 3 seasons, the talented pacer won 20 races, over $1.5 million, and took a career mark of 147-4. As a stallion, he sired horses with earnings surpassing $56 million, including 6 millionaires. The son of the Ponderosa, out of the Matt's Scooter mare Matt's Filly, was purchased as a yearling, trained and co-owned by Dr. Ian Moore, along with R.G. McGroup Limited and Serge Savard. His racing career highlights included winning a Little Brown Jug in a 2-heat world record time for 3-year-old pacing colts on a half-mile track, and a world record of 148-2 for 3-year-old pacing colts on a 5/8 mile track, and winning an elimination of the Coors Delta Miller Adios en route to a 150-4 victory in the final. he posted an impressive 150-4 stakes record in the Windy City Pace at Maywood Park, followed by a runner-up finish in the Messenger, victories in the American National, and Breeders' Crown elimination. A runner-up finish in the Breeders' Crown final concluded his sophomore campaign, which included 14 wins and more than $1.1 million in earnings. Health and injury issues plagued his 4-year-old season, but 1 week removed from a foot separation, Shadow Play paced a career-best 147-4 in the U.S. Pacing Championship at the Meadowlands.
Shadow Play is home free for Dave Miller. It's Shadow Play. He came to pace today at 14.
He was a runner-up in the Breeders' Crown and finished his final racing season with 6 wins in 8 starts and almost $345,000 in earnings. Shadow Play is standing the 2023 breeding season at Blue Chip Farms in Wallkill, New York, and is now owned by the Shadow Play Syndicate. The superstar has sired 6 millionaires, including the fastest standardbred in harness racing history, Bulldog Hanover, at 145-4, with earnings of nearly $2.8 million, plus Horse of the Year honors in Canada and unanimous Horse of the Year honors in the U.S. And there's 3-time O'Brien Award winner and double millionaire Lady Shadow, 2021 Horse of the Year and O'Brien North America Cup winner Desperate Man, and O'Brien Divisional winner Percy Blue Chip.
Accepting for Shadow Play is co-owner and trainer Dr. Ian Moore, and making the presentation is Bill McClinchy of the Woodbine Entertainment Group. First of all, what was it like for you as the trainer and co-owner of Shadow Play to watch this evolution of his son, Bulldog Hanover?
Well, we were all very proud of for Bulldog Hanover and Jack Darling and all his connections. And every race he went, we were all watching. I'm talking about Ron and Serge and myself, all our partners and family. And it was just like we were watching one of our own. And we're extremely proud to see him race and have all the success he did. And also the fact that knowing that if Shadow Play had not been a successful stallion, perhaps there might not have been a Bulldog Hanover.
Yeah, all the dominoes, all the dominoes. You're a practical man, a veterinarian. That's not a joke, yeah. At one point, you almost sold Shadow Play. How does a practical man reckon with what could have been had you chose differently? I am dying to hear this answer.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure all veterinarians are practical men.
They're not all men, by the way.
Well, that's true. In fact, there are more female veterinarians now. I think the ratio is something like 85% females in the veterinary industry now. And every year, colleges turn those out. So women or men may or may not be practical. A practical man doesn't look back at the past and, you know, think of what could have been. I think a practical man would look to the future and think of what can be done, I guess. So, but we used to confer a lot, Ron and Serge and I, many conference calls and many consultations together. Most of them were very amicable, and most of them we were in agreement on a lot of things, but sometimes they did get a little bit fractional at times. You know, there's a lot of pressure when you have a good horse, that's for sure, and even on the owners as well as the trainers and the drivers. So, but we did make a well-informed and what appeared to be the right decision, this 2-year-old year, to keep him over, and we're certainly glad we did. And he's been giving to us now for 17 years, and we're still looking forward to more.
That's great. That's a great answer. One more quick question here. You're also a bit of a wordsmith. Give me 3 words that best describe Shadow Play and or what he means to you. Let's see if this can actually be accomplished in 3 words.
Well, what does a wordsmith mean?
See, we're already over. A wordsmith is a compliment. You're always looking for the gritty underbelly. There's no gritty underbelly here. It's just a compliment.
All right.
You're a well-spoken fella.
I'll give you 3 words. So, tough, determined, and for all of us and all our families and everybody that's been associated with them, unforgettable.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Moore. Congratulations. From his small, unassuming clinic in Wheatley, Ontario, the late Dr. Lloyd McKibben left an indelible global mark on equine veterinary medicine, the benefits of which we are still reaping today. He was an innovator, teacher, and author, while also being a very hands-on veterinarian, affectionately known by all as simply Doc. He pioneered groundbreaking methods which benefited patients such as 2020 Hall of Fame inductee Rambling Willie and thousands more from across North America. This visionary standardbred builder was celebrated worldwide, and tonight we do the same. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Dr. Lloyd S. McKibben.
The late Dr. Lloyd Salem McKibben, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, is considered a pioneer in the advancement of equine veterinary medicine. He was an innovator, teacher, and author, as well as a very hands-on vet. A graduate of Ontario Veterinary College in 1952, Dr. McKibben decided to specialize in equine care, and more specifically, lameness. He treated patients with acupuncture, cryosurgery, and laser therapy. He was also an early advocate for swimming horses for therapeutic purposes. Horse owners traveled from far and wide to his small, unassuming clinic in Wheatley, Ontario for treatment using his groundbreaking methods, all while putting the health and welfare of his equine patients first. Among the numerous horses aided by Dr. McKibben was Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame 2020 inductee Rambling Willie, a 3-time winner of the Canadian Pacing Derby who spent time under Doc's care. Doc also invested time mentoring other veterinarians to follow in his path, many of whom went on to open their own successful practices. He wrote Horse Owner's Handbook and Cryoanalgesia for Horses, reference manuals that continue to be used today. Respected worldwide, he gave lectures and attended seminars in different countries and conducted extensive research, all in the best interest of the equine athlete. In the early years of his practice, he hosted several race days at his own track just east of Wheatley. The races had no purses and were put on by local horsemen who were eager to try their young horses. He also owned and bred several horses and raced a few as well, including Willie Tass, who had a liniment named after him, and Adios Judge, who stood as a stallion at his farm. Dr. McKibben passed away in 1992, but his legacy in veterinarian medicine and equine therapy continues to impact horse racing to this day.
Accepting for Dr. McKibben is his son Terry, and making the presentation is Dr. Ken Armstrong.
I guess he's leaving now, but anyway, the presenter there was Dr. Kenny Armstrong. Kenny lived at our place for 8 years while he was going to school and after, so he was kind of the #1 student of Dad. But Dad enjoyed teaching. That was his place on earth, was to teach things. That's with the little handbook and things like that. He wanted people to understand what he was doing and what his horse was doing. He wrote the book so when they talked on the phone that they could have a conversation, and he understood what was going on with him. He was just a farm boy, really. Grew up around Mount Elgin. Went to war when everybody went to war for Canada. He always joined other associations. He joined the U.S. Association. He joined all over in England and Europe. That way he could talk to other people. If you live in a cocoon, you don't learn much. You got to spread yourself out no matter what your field is. And he always wanted to help the horse and help the people to get a better life out of, what they were dealt with. And I know the books and all that, talk about the Queen Mother and that's all great fluff and that, but there was a lot of 210 pacers and trotters that, went into that practice and served as the groundwork. So as the horse progressed with the knowledge and the way to look after the horse medically wise, it improved also. That's about all. It's a great honor for him. The Hall of Fame is something that you never start out to achieve. You achieve it by doing something good for somebody and other people. I'd also like to mention Dr. Moira Gunn and Al Libfield. They were nominated for this category too. I know Moira's here tonight. And that's a great honor just to get this far, to get nominated, and someday your time will come. So thank you. Good evening.
Our next inductee earned some of the most significant performance ratings ever, facing the best of his generation, which included his main foe, champion Skipaway. While his high-performance career was slow to unfold, he earned his initial Grade 1 score as a 4-year-old. He went out on a high note, taking consecutive wins at the direct expense of Skipaway, with a record-setting performance in his penultimate start, followed by a playful romp in the Grade 1 Woodward Stakes to mark himself as one of the country's best. A successful sire, he returned to Canada to stand his final season in Alberta. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Formal Gold.
25 years after the conclusion of his race career, Ontario-bred Formal Gold's Beyer Speed figures continue to rank among the top thoroughbreds in North America.
But look at this horse! Formal Gold, how good is he? The son of Black Tie Affair wins it by 20!
Bred by Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes Kelly, trained by William W. Perry, and owned by John D. Murphy Sr. during his race career, the son of Black Tie Affair consistently received Beyer Speed ratings in the mid-120s, including at age 4, when beaten a nose by Will's Way in the 1997 Whitney. Formal Gold earned a Beyer rating of 126. A 124 rating for his track record-setting win in the Phillip Island Handicap with a sizzling mile and a 16th in 140 and 2 was followed by a 125 rating when he won the Woodward Stakes that same year. By comparison, current racing superstar Flightline received a 126 Beyer rating in the 2022 Pacific Classic and a 121 rating for his victory in the 2022 Breeders' Cup Classic. Ranked among the top handicap horses of 1997, Formal Gold's gate-to-wire efforts brought Grade 1 victories in the Dawn Handicap and the Woodward Stakes.
But the laurels go to Formal Gold, who wins decisively by 5.
defeating Horse of the Year and U.S. Hall of Fame member Skip Away in both races. In total, Formal Gold finished ahead of Skip Away in 4 of their 6 meetings. Considered one of the most talented horses ever foaled in Canada, Formal Gold's career totals of 8-4-1 in 16 starts earned him over $1.5 million. As a stallion, Formal Gold initially stood at Gainesway Farm in Lexington, Kentucky, later relocating to Rancho San Miguel in California, and finally to Esquirrel Farms in Alberta, Canada. Among the 19 stakes winners he sired were Adore the Gold, Transduction Gold, and Semaphore Man. In total, his progeny amassed global earnings approaching $16 million US.
Accepting for Formal Gold is co-breeder Kathy Griggs, accompanied by husband Kirk, and making the presentation is past president of and current vice president of the Canadian Racing Hall of Fame, John Stapleton. Firstly, what a delight to have you both here, because you've made the trip, as many have, to come here for this night. Kathy and Kirk, thank you for joining us from Lexington, Kentucky. Let's turn the clock back a little bit, Kathy, because we know about Black Tie Affair, and this was the chosen sire. If you can talk to us a little bit about the local dam.
Ingoldsby was a Canadian mare, and her first foal won a stake here in Canada, and I felt like the mare warranted a nice stallion, and Formal Gold had the family I was looking for, and his race record was impeccable, and it turned out to be the perfect fit because we ended up with Formal Gold. So.
Did you have any indication how good Formal Gold was going to be?
Yeah, of course, he was on the farm with me until I sold him as a yearling, and so I got to watch him, and just from the moment that I laid eyes on him, he was balanced, he could move, he was very professional, even as a foal, and yeah, we knew great things were going to come.
Tell us a little bit about his temperament and how he was on the farm.
He was very serious, wasn't really a people person, and just, you know, all business.
We talk about buyer figures and high performance figures, and we heard how incredible some of those were. But just as incredible is what is rivalry in horse racing, and there was nothing quite like the rivalry between Formal Gold and Skip Away. What do you recall about that particular period in their racing careers?
It was so exciting, and Jack Murphy, the owner of Formal Gold, and Sonny Hines, who had Skip Away, both very outspoken and very passionate about their horses, so that was always fun for the banter going back and forth between them. And then the fact that Formal Gold did win 4 out of 6 times when they raced against each other, and he won very decisively, that was always a wonderful, exciting thing.
Yeah, he certainly came through. And we're pleased you came through to join us. We know that you're going to experience some of the delight hospitality, Canadian hospitality, off to Montreal and down to Saratoga, and we wish you the very best, and it's a delight to have you both here. Kathy and Kirk Griggs, and congrats to Formal Gold.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our next inductee's life and enterprise has been about discovery. The invented path of The inventive path of geology, which I think is very unique, led him to his greatest financial uncovering, and to the title of Canada's most famous prospector. The adventurous path of a horse breeder and owner has produced immeasurable satisfaction with several superlative homebred champions and a host of celebrated winners at the highest level. His generosity for healthcare ventures has been lauded. He has been recognized nationally as an exceptional Canadian. His honors within the racing industry culminate right here tonight as the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Charles Fipke.
Edmonton, Alberta born and British Columbia based, Charles Fipke has experienced incredible success as a Canadian geologist and prospector in the discovery of the Akati diamond mine in the Northwest Territories. Mr. Fipke's initial involvement in horse racing came in the early 1980s when he bought a yearling filly from BC's most successful horse breeders and Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame honored members, Russ and Lois Bennett. Over the next 40-plus years, Mr. Fipke has bred and owned numerous horses that have seen success on the track and as part of his breeding operation. Canadian racing achievements include breeding and owning Sovereign Award winners Not Bourbon, who was the 2008 champion 3-year-old male and winner of the 2008 Queen's Plate, 2010 champion older female Impossible Time, and 2003 champion male turf horse Perfect Soul, who went on to become a successful sire, including Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf winner Perfect Churl.
Perfect Churl to win it!
Other Fipke bred and owned Grade 1 winners include 2017 Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf champion Forever Unbridled.
Forever Unbridled has won the Breeders' Cup!
B Jersey, Lemons Forever, Seeking the Soul, Jersey Town, Tale of Akati, Churl's Spite, and many others. Most recently, Fipke bred and owned Lady Spitespear. The 2020 Sovereign Award recipient as champion 2-year-old filly won the 2022 edition of the Seaway Stakes and was also presented the 2022 Sovereign Award for champion older main track mare and champion female turf horse. In 2020, Charles Fipke was awarded the E.P. Taylor Award of Merit by the Stewards of the Jockey Club of Canada for his contributions to the Canadian thoroughbred industry. To date, horses owned by Mr. Fipke have earned over $35 million.
Making the presentation, who better than trainer Roger Atfield, an honored member of both the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame and the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame in Saratoga. Roger has trained many of the Fipke stars, and accepting for Charles Fipke tonight is Bloodstock agent Richard Hogan. Thank you, Richard.
For nearly 4 decades, our next inductee was known as the voice of Canadian harness racing. Frank Salive has called 200,000 races at 75 different tracks, including some of the greatest moments in harness racing history. Known affectionately as the Velvet Fog for the smooth, immersive delivery of his knowledgeable and informative calls, he has provided the spoken words which punctuate countless life-changing moments of jubilation and triumph. He is, for all of us, the soundtrack to the replay reel in our memories, which constantly affirms our love for the sport. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is very proud to induct Frank Salive.
Master of the class, getting the better of Awesome Delhi.
Leamington native Frank Salive, also known as the voice of Canadian standardbred racing, enjoyed a legendary career in the announcer's booth. Competing as a Junior A hockey goalie for the Peterborough Petes in the 70s opened doors for successful careers in broadcasting and announcing horse races for Salive. Bill Bennett, the Pete's play-by-play announcer, secured some part-time assignments for him at Chex TV, which included interviewing a young driver named Doug Brown at Kawartha Downs. Sudbury Downs announcer Ken LeDrew introduced Salive to announcing while he was working at CKSO Radio and TV in Sudbury in the late 70s. He relocated for a job at CBC Windsor, and when the station closed, an opportunity arose, and Salive found himself behind the mic at Windsor, Leamington, and Dresden raceways. From 1990 through 2005, Salive worked as the Ontario Jockey Club's standardbred track announcer at Greenwood Raceway, Woodbine Racetrack, and Mohawk Raceway. The 1993 Breeders' Crown Mares Trot, won by local favorite Lifetime Dream, was one of his most memorable race calls at Canada's premier racing circuit.
Trot has come on to be third. They're at the top of the stretch in the Cadillac Breeders' Crown. Lifetime Dream is trying to hold on. Coming to her is Armbro Keepsake. Lifetime Dream and Armbro Keepsake. Lifetime Dream is going to fulfill the Lifetime Dream.
Another of Salive's most revered race calls was the 2003 North America Cup, won by Yankee Cruiser.
And they turn down the stretch in the richest ever Canadian harness race, the 20th Pepsi North America Cup, into the critical final 8th of the mile. All-American Native, All-American Theory. Here comes LaChance with Artesian on the outside. All-American Native, Yankee Cruiser moving up. Dean McGee for the memory of Brian Pinsky. Yankee Cruiser has won the 20th Pepsi North America Cup.
Salive left the OJC in 2005 to have more of a work-life balance. From 2005 through 2021, he called races at Western Fair, Clinton, Hanover, and Grand River Raceway, Pompano Park, and Fort Erie Racetrack.
Amise Gizmo is a romping away champion in the 2016 Prince of Wales Stakes League.
He retired in March of this year from Ocean Downs in Maryland. Salive's formula for accurate, insightful race calling is strong memory work while serving 4 audiences: the wagering public, horse people, racetrack management, and the TV crew. Frank Salive called close to an estimated 200,000 horse races at 75 different racetracks throughout North America. His conversant, insightful calls, and his silky smooth voice made the Velvet Fog a strong favorite in the horse racing community.
Listen to the applause. We gotta have the presentation first. Okay.
Frank wants to get right to the microphone and skip the whole presentation. So making the presentation this evening to Frank are Jim Bannon, Ian Fleming, and myself.
Wow, you talk about a support network. Kelly Spencer, Jim Bannon, and Ian Fleming. That's like the 3 stars on Hockey Night in Canada. I want to acknowledge first my wife Jasmine in the audience, my friends, Tommy Turner for 40 years. Some of my extended family has traveled all the way from Trinidad and Tobago, so I want to acknowledge Haley, Vidya, and Rennie. My sister-in-law Usha, my niece Allison are here. Thanks all. It gives me great comfort to see you right there before me as I speak at the microphone. As a direct result of the excellence and exposure from Canadian harness racing, I got to work close to 25% of my career in the United States also, at tracks like Batavia Downs, Tioga Downs, Pompano Park. I did most of a meet one time at the old Calder Racecourse before it was permanently closed, and as recently as last year at Ocean Downs in Maryland. And the common denominator with my Canadian co-workers and the Americans is that they all treated me so well and made me feel so welcome and so much a part of the team. The introductory package had a couple of the most emotional moments. So I want to tell you a little bit about the story behind the story as it was unfolding for me in the press box on those nights. The 2003 North America Cup, and I was talking to Chris Christoforou about this, but it was very emotional because the winning co-owner trainer Tim Pinsky had just lost his son Brian before that race. He told me at the post-race reception that him and his wife were right under a speaker at Woodbine, and they dove into each other's arms weeping because my call included a mention of Brian coming to the wire. And I thought that really reinforces the power of our words as the race announcers of the modern era. The other race I should talk about, and this is an untold anecdote, the 1993 Breeders' Crown Mare's Trot, won by Lifetime Dream, and it was kind of a victory for the small man because it was owned by Joe Dunsmore, trained by Butch Elliott from Stratford and Clinton, Ontario. My former colleague Mike Hamilton and I had seen her progress for the 18 months previous, and that's why it was so special that night. What happened after the races, this story has never yet seen the light of day. Maybe Paul McDonnell came over to the Mohawk Inn after the races. Maybe Ian Fleming did. I hope he did. But it was a night of a post-race celebration, the likes of which I was never part of again. Because overnight we had storytelling, backslapping, food, beverage, BSing. It got to be 8:30 in the morning, and in those years we had a radio show in Toronto called the Racing Forum on Sports Radio The Fan 590. Dan Loisel and I hosted this show on alternating weeks. So the untold part of this story I'm coming to is that I was with Joe and Butch and all of the merriment surrounding the euphoria of Lifetime Dream at the Mohawk Inn till 8:30, and then an hour later I interviewed Butch and Joe on Sports Radio The Fan 590 from downtown Toronto. So that was the only time that I pulled that kind of an all-nighter. I couldn't do it now, but I could, but it'd take me 6 months to recover. I want to give great credit to a man who's no longer with us, who was my greatest career influence. And for the Americans watching, Steve Wolf of the U.S. Harness Writers Association, Tim Boharski down at Batavia Downs, Stanley F. Bergstein was by far and away the greatest influence on my career. Whenever I felt I was getting off the beaten path, I would consult his replays on YouTube. And I'm going to recite 3 races specifically for you to look at in your spare time. They are the 1965 Little Brown Jug, won by Brett Hanover, and those wonderful Hambletonians from back at DuQuoin, Illinois, of the 1970s, won by Speedy Crown and Speedy Somali. So those 3 races really embraced the wonderful, mellow, but informative and enthusiastic voice, the irreplaceable voice, really, of Stan Bergstein, my main mentor. Racing in recent years, for the announcer's point of view, evolved into storytelling. So in 1987, I asked Tom Durkin, who was doing the Meadowlands Standardbred meet at the time, I said, Tom, could I come spend a few nights with you in the booth at the Meadowlands? And he said, sure. So 4 nights in March of 1987, I got to spend in the booth with Tom Durkin at the Meadowlands, and that, of course, was when John Campbell and Bill O'Donnell were kings of the hill down there, and it was a real treat to have been there. But the storytelling aspect, the way Tom Durkin mentored me, was most embodied by a race that the Canadians will smile broadly at, because in 1991, Tom declared that it was Dance Smartly, the undisputed queen of racing on this continent. Dan Loisel, my great colleague for 16 years, taught me so much by example. And Dan came from a standardbred background. The 1985 North America Cup, if you ever care to look it up, Dan's words are still ringing in my ears this day, because in the stretch, it was staff director and Dave Wall, and the local horse is going to get it all. Dan also really impressed me with the way he kept fun in the game for the announcers. He had extreme fun, unforgettable fun, great, clean, human fun with Walloo Maloo, that you may remember. And I really love Dan's alliteration of the letter P, because in the 1990s, Dan declared it was Pietsky and Penna, picture perfect in the Prince of Wales Stakes. So thank you, Tom Durkin, Stan Bergstein, and Dan Loisel, for the profoundly positive impact you had on my life and career. I want to especially salute 2 fellow inductees tonight from my generation. Chris Christoforou, I was always envious of you because you had better hair and a better voice than me. And Jack Darling, also some of the best hair in harness racing. And I think we need an investigation by our regulator about what is in the water at Exeter and Ailsa Craig to find out why it's taking John Campbell and Jack Darling so much longer than the rest of us to go gray. So it would be very interesting to see. Maybe Jack will address that in his turn at the microphone. But you know what, Jack? You've had a Bulldog Hanover through your barn, so you can wear your hair like Tiny Tim if you so desire. 2 quick anecdotes of the top literary efforts. I used to collect people's quotes over my career, and these are 2 that have stayed with me over the years. There was a roast about 30 years ago at Mohawk. Bill Wellwood, a Hall of Famer, agreed to be roasted in support of the Ontario Standardbred Adoption Society. So the poet laureate of harness racing, Dr. John Hayes, was one of the first at the microphone, and he broke the room into 155 decibel laughter with this rhyming couplet. Now, this was at the start of the Bill Wellwood roast in support of the Standardbred Adoption Society, and Dr. John Hayes went to the microphone and said, the program back in the day listed Bill Wellwood's weight as 135, well, this may have been true, but only when Christ was alive. The other anecdote that stayed with me over the years was my mentor, Stan Bergstein. In the early 1990s, there was a top-level trotter named No Sex Please, named after the British comedy television show. So Stan was the guest drawmaster for the Breeders' Crown. I think it was won by Chris with Earl, but he'll address that. But Stan, he said, next out of the entry box is No Sex Please with Ron Waples. And Stan made this perfect dramatic pause, and he said, No Sex Please and Ron Waples, well, there's two terms that don't go together. In conclusion, I'd just like to say it has been an absolute honor and privilege to escape the tomato fields around Leamington, which I started in, picking tomatoes for Heinz ketchup. A life like I've had has really only been made possible by something like my junior hockey team, of course, the Peterborough Petes, and Canadian horse racing. Lastly, just a very personal perspective about what this night means to me. When I stood on the blue line in Leningrad with my Pete's teammates at the conclusion of the First World Junior early in 1974 and heard "O Canada," it brought a feeling of overwhelming gratitude and humility. And at the time, I remember thinking, well, that was a one-off. I'll never feel like that again. But thanks to this wonderful Hall of Fame, I have that feeling again. Thank you so much to the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame. God bless you, good luck, and good racing.
Thank you so much, Frank. Our next inductee's scintillating speed was showcased in his winning stakes debut at home and was evident throughout his career on both sides of the border. His superb sophomore season in 1992 for Kinghaven Farms was highlighted by gallant speed displays when second in the Preakness Stakes, and more so when dominating in the Queen's Plate. A fitting conclusion to a fabulous three-race winning streak the following year came in Aqueduct's Grade 1 Carter Stakes, where his speed put him in position to succeed. But it was his abundant class that made the difference. He led all Canadian sires in 2001. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Ali Deed.
A dark-based son of Shadid, bred by Ontario-based Anderson Farms, Ali Deed was a $100,000 purchase by Kinghaven Farms at the 1990 Keeneland September yearling sale. A win in the Victoria Stakes, the colt's single 2-year-old start in June 1991, met the high expectations of Kinghaven and trainer Roger Atfield. The colt's 3-year-old racing season began with an allowance race win by 9 lengths at Gulfstream Park, followed by a victory in the Grade 3 Derby Trial, posting a 1:10 Beyer speed figure and a brilliant run against top North American 3-year-olds in the Grade 1 Preakness Stakes before being caught late by Pine Bluff. Next up were easy victories in Woodbine's Grade 3 Marine Stakes and Plate Trial, before romping to an 11.5 length win in the Queen's Plate.
And this Queen's Plate is history. Ali Deed, in a class of his own, absolute domination.
The Prince of Wales Stakes on a muddy track at Fort Erie, the second jewel of Canada's Triple Crown, resulted in an upset by Nob Hill Farms' Ben Burke. At 4, Ali Deed's schedule focused on the cold speed and shorter races, including a track record equaling time at Gulfstream Park for 6.5 furlongs of 1:15 and 6 and a 1:12 Beyer figure, a hard-fought win in Keeneland's Grade 3 Commonwealth Stakes, and a win by a nose in the Grade 1 Carter Stakes at Aqueduct to conclude a 3-race win streak. In the Met Mile, Ali Deed cut sizzling fractions before finishing a very close third. With career stats of 9 wins in 18 races and earnings of over $930,000, Ali Deed's stallion career was launched at Winfield's Farm in 1994. Among his most successful offspring are Primally and Grade 1 winner Hedonist. Ali Deed's influence continued through his daughters, who produced more than 20 stakes winners, including Millionaires Bound for Nowhere and Warheads. Tonight, Ali Deed joins owners Bud and David Wilmot, trainer Roger Atfield, and breeder Robert Anderson as an honored member of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame.
Accepting for Kinghaven Farms and Ali Deed is Roger Atfield. Making tonight's presentation is member of the Thoroughbred Election Committee for the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame and publisher of the Canadian Thoroughbred, Jennifer Anstey. I want to go back to your very, very first impressions. You're such a judge of horse flesh, such a master of training. What was your impression of this precocious and, I believe, temperamental horse?
Yeah, he was. He was extremely talented, very precocious, and very mentally challenged horse, actually. And as his racing career went on, he got more and more difficult to train because of his temperament, but he was an extremely talented horse.
As we saw, he ran a mighty good second in the Preakness Stakes, and he really I just didn't think I'd ever seen a more facile win than in the Queen's Plate. What was your memories of those two very precious moments?
Well, they were, exactly. Actually, we could go back one step because I was training him to the Kentucky Derby, and I needed to run in the Lexington to make that race. And the track came up very muddy for the Lexington. He couldn't stand up in the mud, and so I had to skip that and run in the Derby trial, which he won very, very easily, and that forced me to go into the Preakness, and we thought we had it won, but somebody came and got us. And then the Queen's Plate, it was a romp for him, wasn't it? And you know, all very good moments for sure.
So we then saw him in the Carter Handicap, which was a great one, and it was a gripping finish, and this horse really put it all together.
Yes, he did, thank God, because I was so disappointed with myself that I felt I had a Group 1 horse on my hands and I hadn't won a Group 1 with him, and you know, it was such a close finish in that race, and actually I thought, you know, I felt that we definitely won it. And then when I got down to the winner's circle, everybody looked so glum, and I said, what's the matter? And they said, there's an objection. And I thought, oh my God, please don't do that. But anyway, it stood up, and he won it, and that was one of his last races.
So as a Alien, and just in terms of what Ali Deed brought to the breed, what would you say were the real assets?
Well, he was exceptionally fast horse. I never had one person ever work that horse that had any idea how fast he went. Extremely talented, and you know, I thought he'd go on and be a better stallion than he did, but he was a very, very interesting horse to train, and like I say, he was one of the most versatile horses that I ever trained, actually.
And congratulations to you who have helped put Ali Deed into tonight's Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame. Congrats, Roger.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this looks like a nice natural break in the program for us, so we'll take a few minutes. That'll allow you to finalize your bids, and we'll get ready for the final four when we return. You will see a count clock come up to the end of the silent auction. This will also give us a chance to enjoy our dessert and our coffee. So we'll be back following the close of the silent auction, which you can follow on the countdown clock, which will appear momentarily.
On the horizon every time you are not around, I'm slowly drifting away, wave after wave, wave after wave, I'm slowly drifting away, and it feels like I'm drowning, pulling against the stream, pulling against my face above the water, my feet can't touch the ground, and it feels like see the sands on the horizon every time you are not around. I'm slowly drifting away, wave after wave, wave after wave. I'm slowly drifting away, and it feels like I'm drowning, pulling against the stream, pulling against the wave, drifting away, wave after wave, wave after on, take me down, spin me around. You got me running all the lights. Don't make a sound, talk to me now. Let me inside your mind. Don't know what you're thinking, sugar. Ooh, but I just got that feeling, sugar. Ooh, and I can hear the sirens burning red lights, turning like it to back now. So hold on tight. We'll be right back.
is now closed. The silent auction is now closed, and we all need to return to our seats as soon as possible so we can continue with tonight's festivities. Still a few inductees to honor. Listen, I don't want to get obnoxious with you because we're all dressed up nicely this evening. I didn't want to be the one to have to come up here and tell you to get back to your seats, but I am, and I'll do it the right way if I have to. So please return to your seats. Please return to your seats so we can continue with our inductees. Just imagine you're the poor fellow that has to be inducted next. All right, folks, if you can all return to your seats, we'll get going. Slowly but surely. Go. All right, folks, last call. Please return to your seats so we can conclude or continue, not conclude, continue this evening's program. 30 seconds to post. "30 seconds to post and no dragging post time. Don't get shut out. Return to your seats now. I could go on all night like this. All right, here we go. Thank you very much. All right. Our next inductee will be forever known, and rightly so, as the man who gave us Bulldog Hanover. His impact on Canadian racing has been significant for the numerous champions he has trained over multiple decades. He has shown the same commitment to fostering goodwill within the industry by championing several racing-related causes. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Jack Darling.
Cambridge, Ontario-based Jack Darling has enjoyed a successful career as a harness horse trainer in Southern Ontario for over 3 decades, campaigning 1,076 winners and conditioning horses to over $22 million in earnings and counting. After a friend introduced him to harness racing with a trip to London's Western Fair, Darling continued going to the track and eventually decided that he wanted to make a living training harness horses. For the first 2 decades of his career, Darling focused on overnight horses before getting involved in the yearling business. In 1995, 4 fillies put Darling in the limelight. Diamond Dawn, a winner of $175,000, Low Places, winner of a 1996 O'Brien Award, Faded Glory, winner of more than $250,000 as a freshman, and Die Hard Fan, over $200,000 as a 2- and 3-year-old. Other top horses included Northern Luck with career earnings at over $900,000, North America Cup champion Gothic Dream with over $1.5 million lifetime.
Campbell is angling Gothic Dream to the outside in deep stretch. Here comes Gothic Dream. He is going to chase Village Jasper to the end, and Gothic Dream is getting up on the outside to take 14. Campbell owns this race. He's won 4 in a row.
And Twin Bee Champ, a winner of over $400,000. In 1996, Darling was voted Canada's Trainer of the Year after training horses to more than $1.8 million in earnings. He enjoyed a career best year for earnings in 1997 when he surpassed the $2 million milestone. Darling's latest protege, Bulldog Hanover, set a world record of 1:45.4 in 2022 to become the fastest horse in harness racing history. Bulldog retired with 28 wins in 37 races and lifetime earnings of $2.78 million. He was voted Horse of the Year in both Canada and the United States and was the recipient of the prestigious Cam Fella Award for his outstanding industry contributions. He is now standing stud at Sealster Farms in Ontario. Darling has also made significant contributions to the racing community, playing an integral role in major fundraising efforts for racing-related causes. In 2014, he received the Lloyd Chisholm Memorial Award, presented by the Standardbred Breeders of Ontario, the United States Harness Writers Association Unsung Hero Award, and the Good Guy Award, which he also won in 2022.
Making the presentation to Jack Darling is a great friend of the hall, Hector Cluche.
Salive, and all of you know that this hair is all natural. When I was a little boy, I'd be asked by my parents, Jack, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? And my answer would always be the same. I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something that I like doing. And of course, I had no idea what that would be. But when I went to the racetrack for the first time and discovered harness racing, my dream came true. And I feel like the luckiest man in the world to have been able to make a living doing something that I love. My thoughts always go back to my early days racing at Western Fair Raceway in London and how exciting it was just to be a part of it. Back then, I never would have dreamed that I would be racing in big stake races like the Little Brown Jug, North America Cup, or Breeders' Crowns. And for sure, I never imagined having a horse like Bulldog Hanover. But as exciting as it's been racing in all of those classic races, it was just as exciting for me back when I was racing and driving my raceway horses in those early years. I just loved the good old days. This is a tremendous honor for me, very humbling, and I really can't express how much it means to me and my family. And I'm lucky to have my family here tonight. My kids, Jackie and Justin, have been my biggest supporters. And none of this would have meant anything without this little blonde girl beside me every step of the way, my wife Ann. Thank you.
In a career spanning more than 3 decades and counting, our next inductee has driven horses to earnings of $119 million, including 6,700 winners. Some of his most poignant victories were for family. These include the Breeders' Crown Triumph with Earl, which shot him into the spotlight at 21, and Hall of Famer Astreos, whose exploits propelled Christoforou into dominance in the early millennium. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Chris Christoforou.
One horse can change the course of a trainer or driver's career, and for Chris Christoforou of Campbellville, Ontario, that horse was a trotting stallion named Earl, bred, owned, and trained by his father, Jarlambos. Earl and Christoforou teamed up for 35 victories and over $984,000 in earnings. That early success on the racetrack was a turning point for Christoforou, who became one of Canada's leading catch drivers for almost 3 decades. At the age of 21, Christoforou became the second youngest driver to win a prestigious Breeders' Crown race when he and Earl captured the Open Trot division at Mohawk in 1993.
Earl and Royal Ballad. Earl wins the Cadillac Breeders' Crown.
Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame members Astraios and Earl of My Dreams were both million-dollar performers benefiting from Christoforou's prowess in the race bike. He guided Astraios to a memorable victory in the 2000 Little Brown Jug Race-Off and was the regular driver for Earl of My Dreams, a standout in the Ontario Sire Stakes at ages 2 and 3. Christoforou also achieved major stake success with Grin from Ear to Ear in the 1999 Breeders' Crown, All-American Nadia, the 2002 Breeders' Crown, as well as Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame member Peaceful Way's 2003 wins in the Goldsmith Maid and Oakville Stakes. He's won most of Ontario's signature events, multiple Canadian Breeders' Championships, the Fan Hanover, Oakville, Burlington, as well as the Champlain Stakes, both pace and trot, and 10 Ontario Sire Stakes super final events.
A deep stretch lead for Betting Line, and Betting Line powers away as Christoforou steals this super final to win by 3. It's Betting Line in front. Second was Investment.
He took home his first O'Brien Trophy as Canada's Driver of the Year in 1999. In 2002, he won his second O'Brien Award, and then captured his third in 2003, the year he set a personal best of $11.9 million in earnings. Christoforou reached the 6,000 win plateau and surpassed $100 million in earnings in 2014, en route to adding a 4th O'Brien Bronze to his trophy case as Canada's Driver of the Year. During his Hall of Fame career, and as of June 17, 2023, Chris Christoforou has driven 6,765 winners and horses to earnings of more than $119 million. And he's not done yet.
Making the presentation to Chris is Dan Fisher of Trot Magazine.
Wow, what a feeling. My whole life I waited for this. When my parents started in this business, my father bought a horse. He couldn't afford a race bike and a jog cart. So we went with the race bike so he could jog and race with it. And 50 years later, a little longer, here I am. I owe everything to my family. My wife, Camilla, my kids. I wouldn't be here without them. So many people in this room, Dr. Moore, Jack, so many. Ronnie Waples has been an idol of mine. It's just overwhelming. When I was a kid, people in my school they wanted to be Wayne Gretzky. They wanted to be, win a Stanley Cup. But honestly, and I say this with sincere honesty, my goal was to be here. And I'm truly thankful to the Hall of Fame for this induction. My family is truly grateful, and this is one of the greatest moments of my life. Thank you so much.
Our next inductee has forged his own unique brand as a highly successful breeder and dedicated industry leader, while developing one of North America's most noted nurseries. He has foaled, raised, sold, and raced a litany of this country's most significant runners. His industry leadership roles, which are so numerous over several decades, internationally, nationally, provincially, have served breeders, owners, and the industry at large, and the history of this game very, very well. It is interesting because he is in the breeding industry. Well, in 2013, John Secura Jr. was inducted into the Racing Hall of Fame. 5 years later, in 2018, his brother, John G., inducted into Racing Hall of Fame. And here we are with his celebrated father and brother, and it's his turn, a past president, too, of the Canadian Racing Hall of Fame. A pleasure to make this announcement. The Canadian horse racing industry is proud to induct our Glenn Secura.
The owner-operator of Hillendale, Canada, near Nobleton, Ontario, R. Glenn Secura has contributed to Canadian thoroughbred racing as a breeder, owner, and sales agent, while also holding key positions with organizations representing various aspects of the Canadian thoroughbred industry. Glenn has served as Chief Steward of the Jockey Club of Canada since 2018 and is past President of the National and Ontario divisions of the Canadian Thoroughbred Horse Society, past President of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, a founding member and past President of the Ontario Horse Racing Industry Association, and is a former director of both the Breeders' Cup and Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association. As owner of Toronto-based Hillendale Farm Sales Agency, to date, Secura has sold 148 stakes horses that have won over $80 million in 2,500 races. Among the horses Glenn has sold are Arlington Million Grade 1 winner and Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame 2012 inductee Jambalaya.
Jambalaya's let loose, the Tin Man, here comes Jambalaya as the winning line looms. Robbie Alvarado and Jambalaya going for glory of the million.
And Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint Champion Merrifield, also a Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame member, as well as Horse of the Year A Bit of Gold, Dynamic Sky, Inglorious, and One for Rose. As an owner breeder, Glenn campaigned Champion Serenading, Hand Painted, Painting, and many others. Glenn is the recipient of a Blood Horse Mint Julep Cup for lifetime contribution to the horse industry in 2016 and an Award of Merit from the Canadian Thoroughbred Horse Society's Ontario Division. Glenn becomes the third member of his family to be inducted into the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, having been preceded by his late father, John Secura Jr., Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame class of 2013, and brother John G. Secura, Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame class of 2018. From the farm to the sales ring, racetrack, and beyond, Glenn is recognized tonight as one of this country's most influential builders of the thoroughbred industry.
Making the presentation to Glenn Secura is his brother, who is manager at Hillendale in the States, and also an honored member of the Hall, inducted, as mentioned, in 2018, John G. Secura.
First of all, everybody, this is proof that I'm also world's leading broodmare sire. This is my granddaughter, Miller, and her sister is here as well. She's hopefully sleeping right now. And these glasses are just for effect. I don't need them. Okay, a few things. Yeah, Milsey, you got to stand up here. I was hoping that if I start to stagger, I could just point to how cute she is and you guys would forget about me fumbling and mumbling around here. I brought a pen. I said I'm going to tick things off so I don't forget anything. So here goes. First and foremost, this is a wonderful evening, but we would all be remiss if we didn't acknowledge, that as important as the horses are and everything else, we lost an honored member in Erwin Drieger, and I'm so sorry for the friends and family of Erwin, and my heart goes out to you guys. He was a fine gentleman, in my opinion. So I'm going to say a bunch of thank yous, and I hope that gets me through this. The very first thank you would be to the Hall of Fame and those that considered me worthy for inclusion. I also have to say a thank you to the two Lauries, my beautiful wife, Laurie, and Laurie Kenny, who conspired and sent my bio in. And I know you're not taking pictures of me. It's you, sweetie. There you go. She's a quarter Japanese and she has red hair. Anyway, I want to acknowledge so many people that are here or have been part of my life, are part of my life, and I will start with my mother, who's here. I am not going to look over this way for the rest. I'm just going to say what I have to say, and all you know that I love you very much. Thank you for everything, Mom. Mom is a constant feature in the Woodbine Winter Circle, mostly when my brother wins races, and she's always there, front and center, supporting, so thank you, Mom. My dad was really the patriarch of the horse business. On June 15th, 1969, he took at least my brother and I, maybe my sister as well, to the racetrack. I remember that day because he gave us each $2 to bet and said you could bet it on any horse you like, and I hope my brother remembers this, but we did what kids always do. You look at the tote board, and there was a horse 60 to 1, and we said, Dad, $2 on Fire and Desire, and he won the race, but my dad told us beforehand if we were going to spend our money that silly, he'll just bet it for us, and he bet us $2 to show on somebody else. So what would have turned out to be a $120 windfall for the both of us was probably a $2.30 show ticket, but that's life. My dad was an immigrant. He taught us all so much, and just a hardworking, really brilliant guy. And I mean, he raised us hard. He didn't necessarily give us much. He made us work for everything that we had. But I am also so blessed. I got to meet John Gaines, Charlie Whittingham, Nelson Bunker Hunt, Bill Shoemaker. Like, how do you do better than that if you're in the horse business? And on a day like today, I think of him every day, but I wear this watch that his father gave to him on his birthday in 1976. So I don't wear it often, but I wear it only for special occasions. And I went in the horse business not necessarily because I loved horses. I've grown to love horses, but I wanted to be with my two heroes. My dad and my older brother. And to see what they both accomplished, I don't put myself up to their level. I never will because it's not attainable, but they're both brilliant at what they did. My brother and his entire family, Angie and the 3 kids, they flew in from Saratoga just to be here tonight. So Jess, Jade, and Jackson, I love you guys. I appreciate so much what you did. My sister wanted to be here so much, and she's the heart and soul of our family, but she has a previous family commitment that couldn't be changed. Her son was flying in from British Columbia, and they were meeting up, so this was long before this event. My own family, there's no words. To me, life is about family. Secondly, it's about horses, but that's definitely the order. Everything else comes next. I've been with my wife. I'm 63, that's easy to tell, but she's nearly my age, and that's not so easy to tell. We've been together for 47 years, and she's the heart and soul of our entire family, and I love her to death, and I thank her for everything. And when we met and started dating. I was 17, she was 15. It was in high school. I don't think she'd ever been north of Highway 7, other than the odd ski trip with her really wonderful family. And now we have 3 kids, 2 grandkids, hopefully boys. Get going, catch up a little bit. To my 3 children, and it's kind of my 6 children now, Carly and Jordan, I'm so proud of you guys. Kate and Ty, I love you guys to death. And Dylan, recently married to the lovely Bianca. This award means everything to me for a number of reasons, some of which I'll keep to myself. But one of the main reasons, well, the 2 main reasons, I think one is I didn't necessarily ever expect that this would happen. And the second was, from the bottom of my heart, you guys, you 6 are my lifeblood, and you're all so much more talented than me. Like, it's not even close. And this award, to me, should show all of you guys that, you know, if you stick with your paths, you're going to go a long way, because I've done reasonably well doing what I'm doing, and I'm doing it on half a tank compared to you guys. So stick with it, and you know, stay together and love one another and all that. And I did want to tell you, it's like a bit of a Green Acres situation with my wife when she first moved up. The younger kids won't know that reference, but you know, it was sort of like a Japanese-Canadian Zsa Zsa Gabor. She moved to the farm, and she's, I think, very happy being a farm girl now. So Lolo, thank you so much for everything, and thanks for being that part of my life. I would be remiss not to mention my in-laws. Henry and Shirley, my mother and father-in-law, just wonderful people, and Robbie, who's here tonight, is always a great supporter. He's about the same size as most jockeys, but he chose a different path in life. There are others that are here that made their way here at great expense and time to them, and they're not official family members, but they're family members to me. Teddy and Yvonne, I love you guys, and you've always been there for me. Teddy's like my older brother, my other older brother, my second father, and kind of a weird sense of humor that we share together sometimes as well, so that's great. Mario and Marianne are here, not only dear friends, but partners as well, and Stephen and Elena, thank you guys so much for coming. Marianne, we always say, you know, when we hit the big one here, when we get our Pink Lloyd, we're going to buy her a fancy pair of shoes because she likes shoes, and she's still shoeless, at least for the time being, but we've got close. We're going to get there. I would be extremely remiss not to mention somebody I called previously, my work wife from years back, Julie Coulter. I'm not sure where you are. Oh, there she is. Julie and her lovely daughter, Chelsea. Julie, I'll tell you this from the bottom of my heart. You and I and the boards that we served, we did some really good work, and you were the backbone of that. Everybody in this room owes you so much. Thank you very much, and I know you're behind the scenes. For a business that I think can be very competitive, and we don't always wish one another well, at least on the surface. We may, but we don't necessarily feel it the same way. I had over 100 texts, emails, phone calls, and to those people, I'm not going to name them all by any means, but thank you all from the bottom of my heart. It was really, really touching. I've worked with a number of wonderful people, some very much behind the scenes, and I'm going to mention a name or two that John will remember, but nobody will know. And Patrick Tinney, Debbie Baker, Tova is here tonight. Tova and Brian have been wonderful for the farm, and you know, I think I work for them. I'm pretty sure I work for them, but maybe I don't. Michelle's been with us these people have all been with us 15 years plus. Tova, that's a bit of a cheat because she worked sales, and anyway, we've delivered countless foals together. Dr. Giliberto, Marissa Giliberto, and her assistant Alex, who's better known as Rapunzel. They haven't worked for us for that length of time, but they're family. It's been 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it's been, but they're my go-to on just about everything. Erica Rusnak, I can't say enough about. She has a horse that she bred that'll run in the King's Plate. It'll be one of the favorites. And she's just got an incredible, she's lovely, she's smart, she's hardworking, she's single. She's too tall for Robbie, unfortunately, so I can't get that going. But Erica, I love you and thank you for everything that you do. And I promise I'll go a little bit quicker. There's several mentors that I wanted to acknowledge, and you absorb as much as you can from people in the business. Tony Mattini, Emila Lane, Danny O'Callaghan, Denny Vella, Josie Carroll, Donnie Fishman, Vicky Pappas. Vicky was probably the first person I ever had anything to do with in the horse business. I have had and do have some wonderful clients. The Shemmers, the Stavros, Listers, McClellans, Chickadance, Liz Pereira, the Lawson family, they're sort of former clients, and currently guys like Joey G. and Gabe Grossberg, Tall Oaks Farm, Al Wellings, Keith Johns, Barb Minshall, Gary Barber are all in trust, myself and our staff, to do the right thing for them. And I've got some clients that have turned out to be not just clients but great friends. Adrian Monroe and Jen Buck and people like that I just appreciate so much. Almost finished, but not quite. I did a lot of work for various associations, and I want to say to all the people that volunteer their time, thank you very much for all that you do for all of us within the horse business. I'll tell you a very quick story about the standardbred people I think will like this. The late, great Charlie Juravinsky. When I first, sorry, sweetie. When I first started, the first meeting I ever went to, I wore a tie and a jacket because I was quite young to be at the meeting. And I sat down and everybody was blue jeans, checkered shirts, what do they call it, the Muskoka tuxedo, that kind of look. And in comes Charlie Juravinsky. And if anybody's seen WKRP in Cincinnati, they know that Herb Tarlick has to be the character that he was formed after. Charlie comes in and he had white patent leather shoes, a white thick belt, a bright red jacket, a checkered shirt, a white tie, and he sat down and he looked at me and he said, "Look at these schlubs." He said, "You and I are the only one that know how to dress." So, Charlie, we miss you. He was a great guy to the horse industry. The CTHS I did for 31 years, and I was with some mostly really, really terrific people, one of whom is sitting here, Frank DiGiulio. Frank, I respect the hell out of you, and you mean a lot to the industry, and you certainly mean a lot to me. And guys like Jeff Begg, Dr. John Brown, there's a multitude of them, the CTHS National, Gord Wilson, Grant Watson, Gene Cruz. Now I'm doing some work with the Jockey Club of Canada, and I just wanted to acknowledge Megan and Candace, who are the two general managers, one formerly and one presently. David Anderson's been a great supporter, and the board of stewards have been wonderful. I want to make one last comment, I think, or one of my last comments about ORIA. It's the industry association that was formed many years ago that did so much good for so many people. If there is anybody here that thinks that the business that we all participate in is a given, you are wrong, and you missed the slots at racetracks cancellation. And were it not for an ORIA, I don't know where we'd all be, but we'd probably be in the elite Legion or something like that right now. There were so many wonderful people that came together. It's something our industry doesn't do well enough, often enough, and we need to do that. And for everybody that was on ORIA at the time, the slots cancellation came in. I know what you all went through, and I would want to acknowledge Bill O'Donnell and Tammy McNiven and Bob Broadstock and all the fellas from WEG. Jane Holmes, Heck Kluche were also part. And let's stay together. Let's work as a business, because that level of treachery should never happen again. And it can if we're infighting. It can if we don't work together. So the industry is a privilege. It's not a right. If we don't steward it wisely, we could lose everything that we've all worked so hard for, and that would be a real shame. And I will leave you with two things. One is the original founder, general man, I'm not sure what the exact title, chairman, heck, what were the chairman of ORIA? Was that the appropriate term? Peter Hardy was the original, and he said something that stuck with me forever, and I will never forget it. He said, as an industry, we can swim together or we can sink separately. So when I look around at the talent that's in this room, it's virtually impossible to think that anyone can beat us, but we can beat ourselves if we don't stay together, if we don't work as one. I think I made a real big boo-boo in not mentioning my dear friend, Sue Leslie. Thank God I caught that before I said goodbye. Sue Leslie is not only a dear friend, but hardworking industry lady, and she was my first ever client. So, Sue, I'm not sure if you're here tonight, but I love you and thank you very much. I think I'm done, other than to tell you on August 30th, we have 45 yearlings at the sale. Please feel free to come by. We'll be happy to sell you one.
Thank you so much, Glenn. Well, Glenn, he made reference to our upcoming inductee, who really was a superstar, a true superstar in the modern day, Pink Lloyd. It's an amazing story. This inductee features really one of racing's most magnetic personalities. He was late launching his career, but for Hall of Fame trainer Robert Tiller, the wait was worth it. He made a record number of trips to the stakes winner's circle. We just kept adding and adding and adding, and the public loved every minute of it. He took down a record haul of Sovereign Awards, as he should have. But what was so incredible about him was he had this quirky personality and traits that we need to learn more about still to this day. But he was almost always trustworthy in the stretch. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Pink Lloyd.
The iconic Pink Lloyd is one of the greatest sprinters in Canadian racing history and the most decorated in Sovereign Award history, collecting 8 trophies during his 6 seasons on the track. The tall and leggy chestnut gelding is also the richest offspring of an Ontario stallion, Old Forester, and richest graduate of the Canadian Thoroughbred Horse Society's long-standing yearling sale at Woodbine. Having missed out on his opportunity to race at age 2 and 3 due to growing pains, Pink Lloyd made up for lost time during the 6 years he did race, winning 29 of 38 starts and earning $2.4 million under the tutelage of Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame trainer Robert Tiller, and often paired with Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame 2022 jockey inductee Eurico Rosa da Silva. Bred by John Carey and owned by Entourage Stable, including principal owner Frank DiGiulio Jr., the gelding's first major win came in early 2017 when he captured the Jacques Cartier Stakes, a race he would win 3 more times.
Pink Lloyd in front and is finding enough. Pink Lloyd goes on to win the Jacques Cartier by almost a length.
That victory was the first of 26 career sprint stakes wins at Woodbine. A perfect season of 8 stakes wins earned him Sovereign Awards as Champion Older Horse, Outstanding Sprinter, and Horse of the Year. Over the course of the next 4 years, 5 more Sovereign Awards were earned, with Pink Lloyd reigning as the sprint champion. Pink Lloyd's 38th and final career start in the autumn of 2021 was in the Kennedy Road Stakes, when the 9-year-old gelding rushed late on the outside to snatch his 29th victory score in front of a cheering crowd filled with fans.
Pink Lloyd, monumental again, has won his final race in glory.
Following his retirement from the track, Pink Lloyd's connections donated him to Long Run Thoroughbred Retirement Society, where he is a Long Run ambassador. Pinky also contentedly enjoys daily turnouts and visits from his Hall of Fame trainer, and another familiar person from Pink Lloyd's racing career is still a regular part of his life, now that his longtime groom, Michelle, works with Long Run.
Thank you, everybody.
So making the presentation to Frank DiGiulio, a member of the Entourage stable, along with other members, Ed Longo, John Perry, John Liccardo, Victor Mele, as well as Hall of Fame trainer Robert Tiller, accompanied by Eurico Rosa da Silva, is breeder John Carey. Wow. Where to begin? I'd like to begin with Frank, and I'd like to end with Robert, but I'd like to start with you, Frank, because I think the public felt goosebumps every time Pink Lloyd ran. And I want to go back to the last race, even though it was the most recent, because we never wanted to say goodbye to Pink Lloyd, but the way in which we did say goodbye was perfect.
It was perfect. It was funny. I wasn't very nervous before that last race because I knew we were doing the right thing and this was the time to end it, and whatever he did was going to be great by us, whether he finished fourth or whatever. And the fact he was able to win, and you know, he started his career with 3 wins. He ended his career with 3 wins in a row. It was perfect. And not surprising with the way, the faith we always had in him. And about 90% of the time, it was rewarded. He was just amazing.
You have?
Well, just like on TV, we're very similar to the characters.
What were some of the standout moments for you?
Believe it or not, even though he won 26 stakes, it was his first win. First start, first win, and just in a maiden race. It was just a 6-horse field, but it was such a journey to get him to the races. Bob would say, I love this horse. He can run. He can really run. So I'd convey it to my partners, and he wouldn't run. He'd have to go back to the farm. And he'd come back, work well again. He'd have to go back to the farm. And I was wondering how my friendship was lasting with my friends, because it was sounding like the boy who cried wolf. But to see him win that day, and he ran in 109, and I said, you know, he is a nice horse. He'll be at least an Ontario sired stake horse, and he was a lot more than that. So, yeah.
And really, when you think to those moments where you had such faith, did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think that this would have happened for him?
Never. Just hoped he would make the races, hope he'd, you know, put a few races together, win some races, that's all. Anytime you buy a horse, you just hope you buy a horse that wins a few races, makes some money, and pays for himself. That's all you hope for, and we got a whole lot more than that. So.
It was so important for us as public, as people who are fans of racing, to see a horse race for so long with such success. And the gentleman to my right has stories that I'm sure you've never shared, but I want to ask you from the very beginning, because it was a late start for Pink Lloyd, what your first impressions were.
Well, you know, right from day one, he showed a lot of heart and desire, even in his works. He just wanted to win. He wanted to go after horses, and really had that magic that, you know, you see once in a while. And I just really was madly in love with this horse, and he just had the heart and desire to want to do it. And we knew that every time we worked him, I used to put a horse 4 or 5 lengths in front of him, and he'd just mow him down, and with ease. So I really thought he was a runner right from day one.
You know, in some of your interviews, you would say to us on the television, the things that you don't know about Pink Floyd that I had to go through. Are we ever going to learn?
Yeah. Well, you know, I want to tell you something. He won 26 stakes, I believe, and I lost count. I just know one thing. John Kerry, the breeder, every time he won, he was waiting at the mailbox for his breeder's share. And there was a big path there, you know, so... and he got paid every time. But anyway, and I got paid every time too, and so did everybody else. So he just had such a big heart, and I don't think there'll ever be another horse like him. And you know, when you think about it, it's impossible. I've been around there a few years. I don't want to say how old I am. I'm 37 years old. So you know, in my 54 years, I've never seen a horse like him training horses. So. You know, we were very lucky to have him, and we went through sessions with him. You know, it might seem very simple to train a horse like this, and I noticed a few very good trainers here, but the pressure is unbelievable, and every day there's something new. We had a lot of times where I thought his career was over. I can talk about that now. And, you know, he kind of liked to be sore a lot, too, because he really felt sorry for himself. When we get the x-ray machine out and could never find anything really bad. But as a young 4-year-old, he kept having a really bad spot on his shin that made him lame. And we had to keep stomping on him. And he had a hock that we had to pin fire. And he was kind of an ugly duckling. He looked more like a camel than the great horse that he was. He had the big bump and a hump in his back. And, you know, he just didn't look like a really, really good horse. But he just had, like I said before, he had the heart and the desire. He wanted to win. And that made him very special. You know, I hate to say this here in front of this big audience, but if you look at his form, he was vanned off after winning 12 stakes. And vanned off because he bled from both nostrils. And what will we do without Lasix, folks? And he was like all other horses. He was a Lasix horse, but he had one very bad bleed, and we stopped him. These are the most patient owners in the world. We stopped him the rest of the year, and guess what? He went on to win another 14 stakes. After that, never really bled again. We found out it was a viral thing. But we went through all these terrible sessions with him, and there were other incidents. You know, he was a special horse to train. We used to hack him late in the morning, and you know, I was waiting for the track to close, so there was no other horses out there. I figured that out after, because he hated horses around him because he always wanted to go after them. And I had some really special people. Tom Lotrish, my assistant trainer for the last 30-something years, been with me over 32 years. The lady that's here tonight, Michelle Gibson, you know, Michelle, stand up, because she was the groom for Pink Floyd. Where is she? I don't. And you didn't stand up. I'm looking for you. There she is. So it was. You know, it was a job well done by everybody, especially Pink Floyd, because he was the greatest horse that ever lived to me. And I've trained about 160 stakes winners, and I've won 2,100 races, so I think I have some idea what's good or bad. So he was just a super horse. So patient owners. Didn't run till he was 4 years old, raced till he was 9, won 29 races and 26 stakes. Well, you know, folks, try and repeat that one. Has anybody ever repeated that one? I don't think so. So I can't, and I thank everybody, and everybody was part of that. But you know, talking about this, I have to thank. I lost my dear wife October 16th. She was only 61 years old. She never missed a race. Without her, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have kept going. And I'm having a hard time keeping it going right now. But she was my biggest fan and Pink Floyd's biggest fan. And I think of her 3-4 times a day. And without her, she's up there watching. And I love you, Gail. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. To a grand job, to the greatest training feat, and to a team that has put so much into the sport, we are so grateful for your contribution, and you deserved every single win, every time, and the public will still get to see Pink Floyd at Long Run, and he is quite the star. Thank you so much for being here, and congrats, John.
Our final standardbred inductee of the evening has captured the hearts and minds of harness racing the world over. He is a rare figure that unites people in enthusiasm, brings grown men to tears, and perfectly epitomizes the notion that anything is possible. All of the adoring words in the English language seemingly belong to him, and tonight and every night hereafter, he belongs here. The Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is proud to induct Bulldog Hanover.
Bulldog Hanover left an indelible mark on the horse racing industry with his unprecedented racing performances and the incredible amount of publicity he generated for the sport as an ambassador of harness racing. Sired by Shadow Play, out of the Arts Place mare BJ Squall, Bulldog Hanover was purchased by trainer Jack Darling for $28,000 at the 2019 Harrisburg Black Book sale. He scored 4 wins in 6 starts in his 2-year-old season, highlighted by an Ontario Sire Stakes Super Final victory with Jody Jamieson as his primary driver. Before the beginning of his 3-year-old campaign, Brad Grant was added to his ownership as a partner. Bulldog Hanover scored wins in 3 Ontario Sire Stakes Gold Legs, the Some Beach Somewhere Stakes, and a North America Cup elimination before rounding out his sophomore season with 4 consecutive wins at Hoosier Park. In 2022, the Bulldog captivated the hearts of harness racing fans, becoming the sport's fastest standardbred in history, stopping the clock in 1:45 and 4 in the William Hott Memorial at the Meadowlands on July 16th for driver Dexter Dunn.
For the Bulldog does it again. Bulldog Hanover, Rocky Road Hanover, and then Tattoo Artist. It's Bulldog Hanover, 1:45 and 4. There it is, the fastest mile in harness racing history. It doesn't get any better than that.
He was also the richest standardbred of 2022 with more than $1.8 million in earnings and added 14 victories to his credentials, including the Canadian Pacing Derby and the Breeders' Crown, both timed in a Canadian record equaling 146 and 4.
And it's Bulldog Hanover, a crowning moment on Canadian soil for Bulldog Hanover, and he's home in 146 and 4, a stakes record performance, and he's tied the track and Canadian record. Bulldog Hanover in the crown, crushes.
His incomparable season was recognized with O'Brien Awards as Older Pacing Horse of the Year, the Some Beach Somewhere Horse of the Year, and he was honored with the Cam Fella Award for his accomplishments and his role as a racing ambassador. He was also the unanimous choice as Horse of the Year in the U.S. He retired at the end of 2022 with lifetime stats of 28 wins in 37 starts and earnings of almost $2.8 million, and is now standing stud at Sealster Farms in Ontario for partners Darling, Grant, and Diamond Creek Farms.
Making the presentation to Brad Grant, the co-owner of Bulldog Hanover, is once again Hector Cluche. Spontaneous applause after, you know, his video wasn't even finished. It was, I always think if people have been continuously clapping for 3 hours and they still spontaneously clap for something, that really says something for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So listen, I have some set questions for you. You've had tremendous success and been extremely supportive of the industry over the years. There are, it says here, there are many, but I would say all owners who dream of a Bulldog Hanover. What's your best piece of advice for them?
Oh, I think it's to keep dreaming. Absolutely. I mean, you just heard the story of Pink Lloyd. You know, he doesn't come around until he's a 4-year-old. And look at the career he's had. So never stop dreaming.
A lot of correlations between those stories, a lot of the same emotions.
Yeah.
Lots of emotions. Is there anything about the Bulldog experience that surprised you? You've had some time to process all of this, and I'm probably the 4,000th person to ask you this question, but is there, or maybe I've asked you this 4,000 times, is there anything now that you've had ample time to reflect, and on a night like this that really reflects the entire career, is there something that stands out to you?
Well, there's a lot of things. One of the things, I mean, his races were phenomenal. His career has been phenomenal. But I think one of the things you learn when you have a horse like Bulldog Hanover is how he's received by everybody. And Jack and Johnny, his caretaker, I mean, they never let anybody not see this horse. Everywhere he went, there was lineups of people to see him, the Bulldog. The Bulldog. That's all you ever heard. And they gave the world every opportunity to see this horse. The races are great, but the response from the people, from the ordinary people, the betters, just people that wanted to see the Bulldog because they'd heard about him, I think that was as a highlight as any.
It doesn't happen every day. I can't remember the last time a horse like that, well, I can remember, and it's one of the greatest horses of all time, so it must be just an incredible feeling for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, the 145 and 4 doesn't hurt either.
The money's okay, too. Yeah, okay. What is, do you have a treasured memory? Do you have one little nugget that you carry around with you out of all of those, that enormous treasure trove of fabulous memories for you to reflect on for the rest of your life? Is there one? I know Jack has one. He kept it from me in a separate interview and used it in his own speech, that he was coming around, he was jogging Bulldog, right? And you came around and there were all these people just watching him jog. And he said, I don't know if he said it brought a tear to his eye. I'm just going to interject that. Maybe. Oh, yeah, it did. So is there anything like that?
Well, I have two things. One is when Jack said we have a deal. That was big for me.
That's right. Well done.
The other one was his 4 races at the Meadowlands. You know, to go the miles he did, world record championship, and then 3 other miles under 47 or under in a 22-day span. I mean, that was tremendous. So that was big. Absolutely, that's a great memory.
Well, on behalf of everyone who has enjoyed this horse immensely, and that's all of us, thank you to Jack, and thank you to you as well for everything that, and thank you to Bulldog for all the great memories that we've all enjoyed.
Well, in a couple of years, you'll be able to watch his babies race.
That's right, that'll be even better. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, Brad Grant, the co-owner of Bulldog Hanover.
We come to our final inductee this evening, a native of São Paulo, Brazil, and now a proud Canadian, who I have to say, I would watch him go into the zone before a race day like no other jockey I've ever seen. And his exemplary record and his knack for the wire were uncanny, as was his courage. He's achieved success at all stops on racing's global map. His ultra consistency became apparent here with his second Queen's Plate win in 2010, when earning his initial Sovereign Award as Canada's champion jockey. Remarkably, over the following 9 seasons, he added 6 more Sovereign Awards and set race-winning standards. His marquee race wins, of which there were many, some on the most improbable outsiders, underline the magnetism here and on the international stage. His robust goodwill, generosity of spirit impacted many. His reciprocal relationship with Pink Lloyd, who was inducted just earlier. They benefited from each other, and so did we. Tonight, the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame is so proud to induct Eurico Rosa da Silva.
A native of São Paulo, Brazil, and now a Canadian citizen, Eurico Rosa da Silva was drawn to the idea of being a jockey from a very young age, enjoying substantial success in his home country before relocating to Macau. In 2004, Da Silva moved to Canada, making Woodbine his main base, chalking up his first win in May of the same year. From there, he began his steady ascent in the jockey standings. Eurico won his first Queen's Plate in 2009 with Samson Farms' Eye of the Leopard, repeating victory in 2010, guiding Big Red Mike to a front-running win in the Canadian Classic for Dom Romeo's Terra Racing in front of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth.
Big Red Mike trying to hold on for one more 16th. Big Red Mike has scored a smashing victory to win the Queen's Plate.
2010 also marked his first of 6 Woodbine riding titles and the first of 7 Sovereign Awards for Outstanding Jockey. The 2021 Avelino Gomez Memorial Award recipients' career highlights include 2 Woodbine Oaks wins, as well as upset wins with Bullard's Alley in the 2017 Canadian International and El Tormenta in the 2019 Woodbine Mile. The same year, Da Silva concluded his riding career.
El Tormenta on the inside in front, and El Tormenta has won the Rico Woodbine Mile.
Eurico had a remarkable partnership with multi-time champion Pink Lloyd, including 2 victories in the Kennedy Road Stakes and 3 wins in the Vigil Stakes. On the international stage, Da Silva claimed victory in the 2017 World All-Star Jockeys Championship in Japan. Admired by both racing fans and fellow jockeys, Eurico was appreciated for his professionalism, unbridled joy, and exuberant wishes of
"Thank you very much, good luck to everybody."
Out of the saddle, Da Silva's generous spirit was evidenced by his long-time commitment to racehorse aftercare at Long Run Thoroughbred Retirement Society and supporting his community by volunteering with the Out of the Cold program for the homeless. Statistically, De Silva achieved over 2,200 wins, over 1,900 seconds, and over 1,500 third-place finishes in 11,630 career starts for earnings of nearly $103 million.
So, this is really beautiful, because making the presentation to Eurico Rosa da Silva, all the way from Brazil, is his mom. His mother's here tonight, Aparecida.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here this evening with so many of the sport's big stars. I want to congratulate all the inductees this evening. What a terrific group of people and horses. It was a thrill to see two recently retired big stars, Pink Lloyd and Bulldog Hanover, being recognized. As you know, we come from the same world, the global horse racing world. When I was 6 years old, my family was very poor. We didn't even have a television at home. One day, I went to visit my uncle, Antonio. The TV was on. It grabbed my attention immediately because there was a horse race on. When I saw the horses racing for the first time, I was mesmerized. My heart was beating so hard, and my passion was born. It was love at the first sight. That marked the beginning of my dream to become a champion jockey. When I was 13 years old, I raced for the first time in Cora horse race. I know each one of you also have your own moment when you are drawn into this magic and wonderful sport. By the time I was 16 years old, I started riding in thoroughbred horse race at Jockeying Club of São Paulo, Brazil. When I turned 17, I was already one of the top jockeys there. In 1998, I moved to Macau, a small island south of China. Fortunately, my winning continued. In 2004, I was ready for my big challenge, Canada. A beautiful country that I love so much that I become a citizen, where people here receive me with open heart, and I'm ever so grateful. The facility at Woodbine impressed me, and I knew it would be my home, and I remain grateful for the opportunity to ride there. I have so many people to thank for my successful career. It would be impossible for me to mention each one individually. I want to thank you, my wife, Orla, who support and love me every day. I love you, Orla. Also, I want to thank my 3 beautiful kids, William, Emilia, and Isabel. They inspire me every day. I love you. To get to the top, you require teamwork. I want to thank all the Asians with whom I worked. Fred Scott, Don Parenti, Mike Lourder, and Tom Patton, and also my valet, Nick, who did a wonderful job for me. I want to also thank the horse owners and breeders who support me. Special thank you to Simpson Farm. I also want to thank the trainer that helped me to get going here. Not an easy place. I'll never forget. Earl Burnett, Glenn Magson, Norma McKnight, and Norma D'Souza. And also the trainers that continue to support me later, Kevin Attard, Malcolm Pierce, Reed Baker, Roger Edfield, and Bob Tiller. Bob, we all know you're a Hall of Fame trainer, but what you did with Pink Lloyd, that was incredible. I have a special place in my heart for Pink Lloyd. Pink Lloyd, I love you, thank you. And thank you all the horses I have been associated with. You have given me a ride of a lifetime. I also want to thank the people that does the hard work and always been there to help me. The grooms, exercise riders, gate crew, and the pony. I love you with all my power in my heart, and I miss you all. And one friend I want to mention that always there for me, Jim Bannon. Jim, thank you. And finally, I want to thank the person that was with me from the beginning and is still standing by my side today, my mom. Mom, thank you. I love you. Mom, do you remember when I was 7, 8 years old, I was in the street with a big plastic bag collecting candy and bottle to make some money for me to buy asthma spray. Mãe, a senhora lembra que eu estava na rua pegando latinha? And when you saw me, you start crying, and I run to you, and I give you a big hug, and I say, Mom, don't cry, because one day you're going to be proud of me. Eu abracei a senhora e falei que dia, para a senhora não chorar, porque dia a senhora ia sentir orgulho de mim. Today, Mom, I feel in my heart, I'm paying the promise, because now I am belong to the best. Thank you, everyone. I love you all. Good luck to everybody.
Kelly, I don't know about you, but I feel like my heart's so touched tonight. I want to say we've seen some amazing achievements in Canada Racing, and Canadian Racing Hall of Fame has some incredible contributors this year. I do feel that it's incredible to see how far and wide people have come from Sao Paulo, Trinidad and Tobago, from Kentucky, from Omaha, Nebraska, from Winnipeg. Yep. It's a testament to the Hall of Fame, and we are so delighted that all of your family members who could make it were here tonight.
Yes, thank you to everyone for coming. We have just a few things before we wrap up, and we are going to give away those centerpieces. I feel all the women's eyes looking at me, wondering if they're going to have a shot at them, so we'll give those away at the end. But I think the one thing, first of all, the planning committee has done just a phenomenal job of taking all of these inductees, playing catch-up these last 2 years.
Yes.
Is no easy task, and I think everyone will agree they've just done a phenomenal job of making the night flow smoothly,
100%.
and everyone still gets their spotlight, so that's been just phenomenal. But the one good thing about that, well, several good things, but the ability to see all these different connections in one room. So, for example, yeah.
We had synchronicity with Eureka, with
Yep.
Pink Floyd, inducted, as it turns out, in 2022, 2023. So the catch-up worked out in absolute synchronicity. And it happened to in standardbred racing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Shadow Play, Bulldog Hanover, and Jack Darling. So excellent. Okay, well, let's wrap it up.
A big
Robert?
thanks, of course. Let's give a round of applause to Linda Rainey.
Wow, what an incredible job.
It's an enormous amount of work that she's put in, and she does a fantastic job. A recognition, please, to Jim Bannon.
Yes, Jim Bannon, the one and only. All right, we are going to go through a quick list here and then a couple of notes at the end. So these are individuals and companies who've made a special contribution. We're going to recognize them. Jane Ballore, she was the one managing all of the photos and trophies, so thanks very much to Jane.
Thank you, Jane.
My co-host, Robert. Life in Flowers for the decor. Clive Cohen, New Image Media Photography. Digital X, the AV support. Manon Graval for the French translation. Not me, obviously. Justin's Canada for the inductee rings. Dave Landry for the program photos. The Mississauga Convention Center.
Yes.
Great event host. Jennifer Morrison for the Thoroughbred inductee biographies. Deanne Petty for the fabulous program design. Soul Drive Enterprises for the Equine Inductee Awards. Sportswood Printing, a division of the Aylmer Express Limited Printing Company. Kathy Wade Villar, who wrote the Standardbred inductee biographies, and the Woodbine Entertainment Group broadcast production department, who does just an incredible job of putting those fabulous videos together. So thanks to them.
Don't forget to check the auction winner board, pay and collect your purchases. And we just want to say thank you for supporting the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, for being here tonight and making this a memorable night.
Wait, sorry. Flowers. The flowers.
Wow,
we have to give away
the flowers.
We also want to thank all the volunteers who contribute
absolutely
their time and energy to this event. Okay, look at all the iPhone. Okay, so.
And a big thanks to you, Kelly.
Oh yeah, whatever. Okay, so yes, centerpieces. Jim Bannon told me how to do this. Okay, so there's centerpieces at each table. They can only go to one person, and so the person at each table who takes home the centerpiece is the smartest person at the table. No, okay. That's good, though. It's good, though. Okay, so the person...
I'm drunk.
The person at the table who is wearing the most pink, listen carefully, because of Pink Lloyd, if you're wearing the most pink, you take home the centerpiece. If no one is wearing any pink, you go to red, okay? Pink first, then red. I can settle any disputes. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic
Thank you so much.
evening. Thank you.
See you next time.
Y'all trying to do 24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe, so player. Look out. Pop, pop, it's showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again? Oh, they don't know. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Showed up, I'm wearing Cuban links. Designer mix. Inglewood's finest shoes. Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to get the color red, the blues. Woo, shit. I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Keep up. So many pretty girls around me and they're waking up the rocket. Keep up. Why you mad? fix your face. Ain't my fault they all be jacking. Keep up. Players only. Come on.